What is that? Oh my God. She had some fucking movie on. Drum. Yep. She's working to she's says it's in progress. Okay, got it. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Have a little trouble here. I don't think I've got it going on YouTube, but I wanted to get you guys in. Debbie's coming to help figure it out. Let me see what we got. I finally was able to get back to this screen to get everybody in, but it's not on YouTube, and somehow that music came back.
So I guess we're waiting for them to straighten out the technical difficulties.
Yeah, just give us 1 minute, please.
Sure. Okay, sure.
Okay, so we are live. Okay, I do have Louis Sagisi in the waiting room, and I will bring him in when we get to the topic.
Start your recording.
Oh, shoot. Okay. And so Tim, if you want to kick it off with reading the notice, and I think you have everybody on, in addition
Yes,
to
I do.
Keith there, who has
Okay.
grown a beard over the last several months.
Okay. Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the, a special meeting of the Planning Commission, Tuesday, the 18th of May, 2021. Until further notice, the Corporation of Harpers Ferry governing and deliberative bodies will hold meetings and/or hearings virtually via Zoom webinar, which provides for public participation during a public comment period when applicable and when posted on the agenda. Alternatively, the public may watch meetings by YouTube, video live stream, or listen by telephone. These options comply with the Open Governmental Meetings Act. Zoom webinar link to the participate in the town meetings and/or hearings can be found on the meetings and events calendar at https://www.harpersferry.westvirginia.us/calendar.html. Visit that same site for further information on how to view and participate in the town's virtual meetings and/or hearings. All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order. Present are the Vice President, Christian Petrikonis. Oh, there he is. Secretary Roberta Mead Curry, George Owens, Ken Dill, Jim Jenkins, Peter Deshauer, and Town Council Kim Sayer. So I'm going to call the meeting to order.
Tim, before you do, I hate to interrupt you, but Roberta Mead Curry has her hand up.
Yes, Ms. Curry.
I'm sorry, you can call the meeting to order. I do have a request to reorder the agenda.
Well, I was just about to do that. Suggest that. We have to approve the agenda, and I suggest that we go and we switch new business and old business, that we, I'll keep my announcements. I really don't have any announcements. The reports, I think, can go on. And then probably the most important thing is Mr. Sayer is going to speak to us about the agenda eligibility and other matters pertaining to the town council. So that's what I'd like to do about reordering the agenda. Is that?
I would like to move it in front of the reports so that we respect Mr. Sayer's time and then the public's time. So if item agenda items 4A and 4B can be moved up before the reports.
I have a problem with that. I think these two reports are important, that the whole town hear this. I don't like it to be just lumped in at the end. That's my opinion.
Well, that means we want to move it up.
Well, we want to move up new business. She wants to move it beyond to position 2. I'm suggesting I would like to see it move ahead of old business, but reports go first. Is that what you said? Or she was putting that ahead of reports?
She was putting number 4 as number 2 and proceeding from there.
I'm just not aware if item number 2B was going to take a lot of time, and I'm respecting Mr. Sayer's time.
What about 2A?
2A was going to be really fast. But I would suggest
that may be a problem, but okay. That may be a discussion on this.
Well, maybe if the two reports are yours, Roberta, and
No, one's mine.
Yeah, Christian and Roberta's.
Right.
So if one of those is going to take time, then maybe we should put the Planning Commission 4A. What if we did 4A first, and then the reports, and then 4B?
Tim, I hate to interrupt, but Mr. Sayer has his hand up.
Mr. Chairman, I have no problem, waiting until after the report section. There's no football on TV. The Mountaineers aren't playing right now. So my wife is in Beckley. I got time.
Right. Well, what do you say we go with Mr. Sayers recommending, and we'll just switch We'll switch 3 and 4.
Okay.
And Tim, again, Roberta has her hand up.
Yes, Ms. Curry.
And again, I appreciate that, Mr. Sayer, but we're limited to a certain budget with your time this evening, and I certainly don't want to go over that budget because we're not authorized to do that. And so you waiting for us to be done with all our deliberations is costing us money. So I'd like to respect that we handle you quickly and first because of the limited budget we have been approved.
And I have guaranteed, no matter how long we take tonight, that I will keep the budget to within the budget authorized amount.
Thank you. I'm on the budget committee. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So thank you, Mr. Sayer. So why don't we, number one is president's announcements. I don't really have anything to go. Why don't we just go into the reports? And the first report would be yours, Roberta, on the comprehensive plan working group.
Okay, thank you, President Weiskeiver. Again, Roberta Mead Curry as chairperson of the comprehensive plan update. First item, if we can just change on the agenda going forward to use the official name of the committee, and that was voted on by the Planning Commission to be the 2022 Comprehensive Plan Committee. So in future agendas, if we can have that noted correctly, it's no longer called the working group. Basically, we, as stated before, we have been reaching out to the community. We have about 6 or 7 members of the committee that are looking to be confirmed. We are looking to have our first meeting, organizational meeting only, to introduce these people to each other and talk about their role and confirm that they do understand what they're about to embark on and that they truly want to be on this committee and serve, because we understand that they're making a commitment for almost 2 years. So we're going to have that happen here pretty quickly, probably by the end of this week, and get their commitment. And then once we're ready to receive that and they have confirmed with us, we're going to go ahead and bring that to town council that we have a committee formed. And that's all I have for it this evening.
Roberta, wouldn't you bring this in front of the planning commission first? Just
I can. Yes, you're absolutely right, Christian. Maybe we do that first and then we bring the names to town council. Thank you.
Well,
George,
if you,
pardon me, Tim.
go ahead, George.
Christian, to that point of bringing the matter to the planning commission, by decision of town council, the approval process of the committee is a matter of the town council and not the planning commission. That's the reason.
I didn't say to approve it. I just said we should know who they are, and we should know before the town council. This is our committee, this committee 2022 comprehensive plan committee. This is our committee. You should not go past the planning commission. It should be, we should know what's going on literally before the town council, and I'm even on it. I understand approval is done by the town council.
I know that sounds like a small point, Christian, and it probably is a small point. However, perhaps Mr. Sayer, when he comes forward, can enlighten us on that. I believe the motion that was voted before town council makes that committee a creature of the town council. But I might be wrong.
You are.
You are.
I'd like to ask Roberta, can we know who the 6 or 7 people are?
Yeah, I mean, that's important.
Can we know who they are that you have?
When I get an official commitment from them from our initial organization meeting, I will certainly release those information to you.
Okay, and so we have a commitment for how many people?
Almost 7 people.
Now I'm confused. If they're committed, then can we know their names?
I'm sorry, they're not officially committed until we have our
Okay.
first organization.
How many officially committed members are there?
Myself and George Owens.
Okay, myself and George. All right. And I also want to ask, how are you soliciting members? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, we're calling, we're getting people approaching us that they're interested.
Your call, but what determines who you call?
They've approached us that they are interested, and so we call them.
There's never been anything put out for this that I'm aware of in the public domain. I didn't know about this.
It's been at the city council, we are
Town
here.
council, I don't remember the town council asking for nomination and asking for help on this. I did bring up in town council that we need to have some business people involved, and that includes the Merchants Association and Swan. I did bring that up in town council.
And they will be considered the stakeholders. They are going to be seriously considered as the stakeholders as part of this comprehensive plan. And when we get to the point where we're interviewing the stakeholders, we will certainly have their comments received.
So what is the rationale? Is just who volunteered, or isn't there some kind of plan for the kind of people that we need on this committee?
Yes, there is. And we're formulating that.
What's the model?
Christian, I'm sorry. The reason I think that this is so difficult is that you're asking questions in media res here. The matter has been in the middle of formulation, and give us another week or so, and we'll
This is
have.
why you're here tonight for this, is to talk about it tonight. That's what I was ready to hear. Something.
Christian, that was not articulated in the agenda, and frankly, if it was, you would have been notified to say, well, a little bit of patience here because this is still forming. So
you're going to have this all formed up, and we're not going to be able to talk about it.
Christian, the concepts are forming, and it's council will know, and planning will know, and council will have time to approve, and just a little bit of patience here, okay?
I feel like it's underhanded.
Well, that's an unfortunate feeling.
I mean, why can't you tell us who's already raised their hands? What's the problem?
Christian, please honor an orderly process here with a little bit of, patience.
Well, I'd like to say something. I do want to thank you, George and Roberta, for undertaking this task. I mean, it's a big deal. I think what is of concern is that to form this committee, a number of people or constituents have to be involved. In other words, I don't think you have a committee if you don't have somebody from Swan on it. I don't think you have a committee if you don't have somebody from the Merchants on it. I don't think you have a committee unless you have somebody from the Appalachian Trail Conference, from the Park Service. That is, somebody from those groups has to be on there. And I had the sense that it's possible that they could be, somebody from one of those groups could be rejected. And that's what I'm not trying to, I'm being patient, but I'm also thinking that there has to be a way, hopefully with volunteers. Maybe you can't get anybody, I don't know, but those groups have to be included. Plus, it would seem to me there must be some sort of, how would I find out about this?
Tim,
Yeah.
I just answer all those things by saying.
No, I was asking Roberta, George.
Stakeholders, I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Well, if I may then.
Well, no, Roberta is frozen, I guess. Is that the idea?
I will let George speak, and then I will speak after George.
Oh, okay. George, go ahead.
All of those groups are going to be in. It's just
Okay, good.
Given the gravity of this,
Mhm.
and we're assessing a great deal of gravity to it, we're formulating method and all of that. And that's the stage we're in. We're
Oh, I
very
see.
close.
Okay.
We're very close to the point where, yes, this is all going to be rolling out. And I don't want you to confuse participants, okay, such as Swan, Merchants, Appalachian Trail, Christian Petroconis, okay, include him in that group, with the people who say at a banquet are setting the table.
I'm
We're-
lost.
The metaphor here is that we're getting together the cooks and the mechanics to get this machine, this banquet, whatever you want to call it, rolling. And we're at a very thoughtful stage, but we're very close to coming out and presenting. So I'd again urge patience, and reports are forthcoming to council and to planning commission.
Okay, thanks.
And I will follow up with that. We have reached out to several members of the past committee, and they no longer want to be involved. They feel they've served their time. So we have gone down the list of previous authors. We do have a couple of them committed on the outskirts when the document is finally done to review the final document. Those are our two volunteers. So, and again, we're trying to develop a group that is going to be diverse and will cover the issues that need to be covered, but we'd like to have an organization that will be good leaders and not be tilted one way or the other. It has to be diverse. It has to be open. So we have a commitment from those people, or a verbal agreement that they'll meet with us and have their first meeting with us and understand their commitment. So those people will be what we call the leaders, the steering committee, to reach out to the stakeholders, that being the merchants, that being the hospitality group, that being the short-term rental people. So we're trying to have these committee members take a very strong role in getting things done, instead of myself or George having to do, or even this planning commission having to do a lot of the legwork. We're going to divide responsibilities and tasks, and the stakeholders will be communicated. And once those ideas are received, then we start to formulate what the goals and objectives are going to be, and then we bring it to the public.
Okay.
So there are steps to developing a rewrite for your, or an update to your comprehensive plan.
Okay, what I'm a little bit confused because it sounds as if there's a committee within the committee again, a steering committee, and let me just ask this. Will a representative of Swan be on the committee? Forget stakeholding. Will a representative from Swan be on the committee? Will a representative from the Merchants Association be on the committee as a committee member, not just a stakeholder?
If I can answer, Tim, let's wait on that until we present how this mechanism is going to work. Once again, the only thing I can say right now is a metaphor applies, and that is mechanics versus the people who are such as Swan and so on. The people, the enablers. We're doing something that is effective and unique, and just give us some time. We're going to roll out this process, and the people who you want involved, who you believe need to be involved, will be involved at a committee level. Okay.
Tim, Ken Sayer has his hand up.
Yeah,
Sure.
Mr. Sayer.
Mr. Chairman, and though I know this isn't necessarily the reason I was asked to come to this meeting, the city of Martinsburg within the last 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years, went through the process of redoing its comprehensive plan. And it is a yeoman's work to do the plan. I don't know if Harpers Ferry has thought about getting a consultant to help. That's what the city of Martinsburg did. We hired a consultant to assist us, though the committee that was the Planning Commission's committee that was appointed by the city council was the final say in the steering of all of this. The consultant was invaluable in making sure that we had the meetings with all of the individuals that needed to be part of it. We had meetings with the merchants. We had meetings with the downtown merchants. We had meetings with residents. We had meetings with governmental officials. We had some surveys that were put together, and it was a monumental task, but it got us a comprehensive plan that I think was a good product. The group that we worked with was part of WVU and their land use group out of the law school. It was, of course, now we're in the zoning rewrite, and I'm sure you all have seen in the paper the issues with our zoning rewrites, and we're going to have a meeting next week on amending. And the folks that are doing the zoning rewrite, that wrote the zoning ordinance, are not the same group that did a comprehensive plan. It's a different function, but that may be something that the Planning Commission and council may want to look at, of maybe contracting with a consultant to help the comprehensive plan group.
Tim, Roberta has her hand up.
Roberta?
Roberta Mead Curry, thank you, Ken, for stating that. And that's exactly what the committee is going to determine, is once we see the length and breadth of our tasks at hand, that may be the recommendation, that we say, you know what, this is overwhelming. We feel that we need to hire a consultant. And if the committee decides we want to do that, then that's the direction it'll go. But the steering committee or the 2022 comprehensive plan committee will be the one who vets most of what's going to happen and how we get an RFP written and whatever, if we're going to go towards that direction for a consultant. So please understand, it is there is a process, and let's go ahead and vet it out. Let's do this properly and trust in this committee, trust in my expertise, trust in George's expertise, and we're not doing anything as you're thinking. So I appreciate that.
Well, we're not, Roberta, please don't get the wrong idea. I mean, we're not thinking that you're doing anything wrong. Certainly, I mean, again, I'm very grateful to you and George to undertake this. And I think the questions were more that because it's slightly opaque, we're a little bit confused, and that's all. And I'm sure Christian, I speak for Christian, we're very patient, and we're very grateful that you're undertaking this.
Thank you very much, Tim. We appreciate that.
I want to make sure there's transparency. That's all.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. Let's go on to the Washington Street Sidewalk Restoration Committee. I think I've got the right name for that. I'm not sure. And that's you, Christian.
Yeah, this is Christian Petroconis with the Town Council. Last Monday, I presented this concept to the Town Council. It was approved unanimously. Now, this is Washington Street only, sidewalks only, and we're doing our best to do restoration, though we may have to repair and also replace this sidewalk has been recognized as one of the more, well, it's the most important sidewalk in our town on one of our most important streets, particularly for pedestrians. And there's so many between residents and visitors in the town. So this committee was authorized, and that's it. So there's no members yet. As next week, when the town council meets, I believe on the 25th, we'll have a special meeting I'll get this on the agenda to get some nominations, which are myself and George Owen on it. And we will, I'll be looking for another committee member or two more to fill out that committee. Right now, to date, I have took Roberta, I took your idea about trying to get a grant. So I looked at the AARP organization that you suggested. I did find they have a great program. They issue 2 grants per state, like usually a big community, a larger community, and then a smaller community. We'll probably get a shot at the smaller community one. They've been doing it for about 5 years. It's not a ton of money, but it's, I asked for at least $10,000. I did the 12-page grant, submitted to them, haven't heard anything. When we should hear in June. This is to restore the brick sidewalk that's on Washington Street near the church between O'Dowell and Camp Hill Methodist Church. It is really in poor shape. And so I have bids, and I even had contractors looking at it. And so I have bids between $10,000 to $18,000. I got the bids after I submitted the grant. I had a timeline on the grant, so I couldn't wait. So I submitted it for at least 10. So that's where we're at. We're there on that. And then I'm getting an overall estimate for the entire Washington Street from pretty much from Columbia up to Town Hall. And I'm waiting for an estimate there. They have spent many hours. We're already paying a consultant, a sidewalk restoration firm and they're doing the consulting for us because this is beyond my expertise, way beyond. And they have been up here. They're from Mount Airy area, and I've already talked to 4 different companies, but this particular one restores. They're known for restoration, so that's why I focused on them. And they like us. And they've been coming from Mount Airy. I've been up here at least 3 times and spent at least 2 to 3 hours looking at our sidewalks. And that's where we're at. Any questions?
Okay, thank you, Christian.
Okay.
Then we're going to go on to the new business, and that will be Mr. Sayer, the town attorney. Mr. Sayer, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I noticed that the agenda item is listed as the Planning Commission's operations, agenda eligibility, and discussion and action. Now, I have reviewed the Planning Commission, the ordinance creation of the Planning Commission, and also compared that to 8A21, which is the Planning Commission's state code that authorizes municipalities to create a planning commission. And the ordinance is very consistent with the planning commission statutory language. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that probably Mark Sad helped write this ordinance, lawyer out of Charleston, who is a land use lawyer that is of high regard. In general, the planning commission, in general, most planning commissions sort of look at certain items dealing with subdivisions, which you all have the authority in your ordinance. And then we have a subdivision ordinance in the city council or in the codified ordinances that look at when property is being subdivided to make sure that it's meeting all of the requirements of minimum lot sizes, setback size, well, on the subdivision, minimum lot sizes, making sure that there is appropriate access to oversee the development of that portion of the property. And in your ordinance, it says that you have, and I was a little confused about maybe some of the way it was written. It says approve minor subdivision of land or land development application within the town. Exempt an application for minor subdivision or land development within the town, and approve a major subdivision or land development application in the town. I'm not really sure why the language of approve the minor subdivision and then also exempt that the town has a. Ms. Curry, you have a question? You're muted, Ms. Curry, or Mead Curry, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, Roberta B. Curry. Yes, I'm trying to follow along where you're reading that. If you could be specific which sections of our article you're.
Well, that is section 13307 Q, R, and S.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, that's the section that, you know, I think that the approval of subdivisions, I think that's really a lot of what the Planning Commission does. Then the Planning Commission also, when it comes to subdivisions, typically they are the final say, so to speak. They're the ones that look at that. Typically, a Planning Commission also looks at the site plans. As a project comes up, there is a site plan that should be developed. And that site plan, which I believe is sort of your all's record, is the land development application, where that's where you all make sure that the setbacks are the setbacks, the lot coverage requirements. You all are making sure that those are being met. And your all's job as the Planning Commission is to make sure that they are met. It's not necessarily and to give waivers from that, though. If you look at again subsection 07 subsection L, it talks about legal, equitable, or special remedies. Typically, though that is allowed under the state code, typically that's more of a function of the Board of Zoning Appeals. So you all have your standards, and when somebody does a subdivision or site plan, you make sure those standards are met. Another typical function of the Planning Commission, and this is one section that is different than the state code, and that's 07H. And I don't understand why it says makes recommendations to the Board of Zoning Appeals. The West Virginia State Code says that it makes recommendations to the governing body. Well, the Board of Zoning Appeals is not the governing body of the Planning Commission. The governing body of the Planning Commission is the Town Council. The Board of Zoning Appeals has its own function when it comes to a zoning ordinance. The Board of Zoning Appeals general function is to see if there should be variances, if there's a reason based upon a criteria that a variance from those criteria, setbacks, minimum lot requirements, maximum lot coverages, that they can grant a variance, or the Board of Zoning Appeals, typically their other function is the conditional use permit or the special special exception. Cities call them different, but they're basically the same. And that's a use function of the property. That's typically not our planning commission's function. And like a recommendation, another function of the planning commission is dealing with rezoning. I see George has his hand up.
I'll
Mr.
wait for
Oak?
you to finish on that, sir. I'll wait for you to finish on that.
Typically, if there is a request to make a zoning change or a change to the zoning ordinance, those start at the planning commission. You will typically have, if you want to change like something that's going on in a specific district, typically those are referred to as a text amendment. And a text amendment would come to the planning commission, they would vet it out, and then they would make the recommendation to the town council. We think that in our residential zone, you should be allowed to do X. And then the town council makes that determination by an ordinance. So you had a question?
Yes, sir. I had wanted to make some more general questions at the end of your presentation.
Sure.
However, while you're in 3307, I wanted to ask you about L here. I'm reading L closely. Invoke any legal, equitable, or special remedy for enforcement of the provisions of this article. It's unclear to me what this article means, or any ordinance, rule, or regulation. Now, when you discussed that just a moment ago, you discussed that as being in the context of subdivision decisions. It would seem, I don't see it subordinated under subdivision decisions unless this article is solely, unless subdivision is solely the province of this of 3307. So I'm wondering, is that an extremely broad sort of power and authority to for any legal, equitable, and special remedy of enforcement? If you can address the width of that statement.
Okay. Well, if you look at the source of that language, and the source of that language is West Virginia Code 8A 211, and it comes down to 12, and your language is verbatim, and so when it talks about provisions of this article or any ordinance, rule, or regulation of any action they're taken, and so when I look at that, meaning the article, that would be Article 2 of the West Virginia Code. Not Chapter 8A, but Article 2. And so it's referring back to that section, which actually does not, Section 2 does not necessarily include, or Article 2, excuse me, the subdivision. Subdivision is a different article in chapter. It has
Oh my.
Pardon me?
I said, oh my.
Oh, yes. So, I mean, your subdivision ordinance, and in Chapter 8A, it allows for determinations of subdivisions to be done by the Planning Commission. But when it comes to invoke any legal, equitable, or special remedy for the enforcement of the provisions of this article, it is talking specifically with those powers and authorities that you have in Article 133. And that includes your enforcement in 1310, which there are some things that I found interesting in that, that we'll talk about when we get to that. So again, going back to the typical functions of the Planning Commission, You have the subdivision ordinances dealing with subdivisions and site plans, which the land development. Then you have the review of the zoning ordinance to make recommendations, not to the Board of Zoning Appeals, because they can't make changes to the zoning ordinance, to the town council if we think that a certain zoning district should have a change in that those actions. Either it could be a setback, or it could be a use within it. And then the other is map amendments. And a map amendment is where we have certain zones, and somebody comes to us and says that we would like to change the zoning from residential to commercial, to one of those changes, or the other way. And that comes to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission would then have a public hearing and then make a recommendation to the City Council either to approve or disapprove. The Planning Commission does not make the determination, they make the recommendation.
Right.
And so those are typical functions of the Planning Commission. Now, the powers and duties and the creation and objectives, the objectives are in 01. The objectives are also pulled out of the West Virginia Code, and it talks about, the orderly development to make sure there's adequate, and this is an 01 in that general section. And so that's sort of the overall function of the Planning Commission, but then the actual operational functions of the Planning Commission are really boiled down to subdivisions, site plans, the text amendments, and the map amendments.
Okay, sir. May I ask a question then while we're on 01?
Sure.
Certainly. Let me be specific here.
Mhm.
I'm reading 1301A1 and 1301A4. I see that we're to promote
Mhm.
orderly development of the town and its environs. Okay. I also see that we are here to plan so there's adequate light and safety, convenience of access, safety from fires and floods, and other dangers may be secured, that congestion in public streets may be lessened or avoided. And it talks about public health and morals, convenience, and general welfare. We have had, and I'm going to be specific here, concern from neighbors concerning matters that are address morals. There's been indecent exposure, health. There's been defecation in people's front lawns. There's been traffic congestion. And so I'll be direct here. One of the reasons I spoke to you and asked, would you come and enlighten us on this, is I read the specific language here and see that it would seem that we are, it's within our purview to concern ourselves, not with acting upon these, but making recommendations to council, as you described, to secure these items of public welfare, to make a general statement about them. Am I being correct in that or not?
Well, typically, a lot of that is addressed through the comprehensive plan. And that's where you start dealing with the orderly development. You start
Sure.
dealing with, planning for access and those types of things. You don't typically see the Planning Commission, for instance, the defecation issue. You don't typically see a Planning Commission necessarily getting involved because people are going into a dead end street and doing something like that. That's typically the function of your law enforcement. But the general concept of, we don't want, for instance, for morals purposes, we don't want to allow for limited video lottery locations all over the town. We want to restrict them to certain parts of the town or distance. We don't want to have a bunch of gentlemen's clubs in the town. So we put these restrictions on where they can and can't be. We don't want to have these districts when it comes to that. Miss Mead Curry, you have did I help you with that, George?
I suppose I'm actually saying, not the word you were talking about typically,
Mhm.
planning commissions. I'm asking, are we permitted as planning commission members to listen to residents' issues and to make recommendations on matters? May we make recommendations on matters of public health, safety, comfort, morals, and convenience of the public welfare? May we? Or are we forbidden?
I don't believe you're forbidden from doing that. I think that the more proper place for a citizen to in my mind, the more proper place for a citizen to address those are at the town council that has the more enforcement ability. But
Sure.
but the may, yes.
We may. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
All right, Miss Mead Curry.
Yes, thank you, Ken. A couple questions regarding 133.01. Paragraph A, subparagraph 1. And I think we had a discussion on that in one of our last meetings regarding the definition of environs. And if I can share my screen, I have pulled up several definitions of environs. Can everyone see that?
Oh,
It's
No.
pretty small.
I
Yeah.
know. I don't know how to zoom in, zoom up. Let's see. I make it larger.
Yeah, I think that bottom right corner, see that slide that makes it bigger.
Too big. So I've got the Cambridge Dictionary definition. I have Webster's Dictionary. I have dictionary.com and another one on there. But it's our understanding by that word in the rules there, our objectives, that we can help develop, we can help move forward all areas, all surroundings, anything that is encompassed in the town boundaries. Is that correct?
Well, again, those are in 133.01. Those are the objectives of the planning commission, and the planning commission, sort of the overall encompassing guidance or compass of the planning commission. The planning commission powers are in 07. So 07 doesn't necessarily give you the authority to, pass an ordinance or get an ordinance to deal with the environs. Most of those objectives of the planning commission there are really focusing down onto that comprehensive plan. And in fact, you get to 8 and 9, 8, you get to guide growth of the community in accordance with a comprehensive plan. And so you've created a comprehensive plan that deals with these first 7 items. And then the 8th item says that based on that comprehensive plan, that's our guidance. So the comprehensive plan sets out this vision for the town. And then that vision, when we look at things like a zoning map amendment or a text amendment, or when we look at these parts of our zoning ordinance, if we want to make a change, say a zoning change, you have to look at your comprehensive plan. You say, is that zoning change part of the comprehensive plan? If it is, then these items say, all right, go ahead. If it's not, let's say that, and I'll give you an example from over here in Martinsburg. The planning commission was talking about some property of zoning, some industrial property to commercial property. The comprehensive plan said, this is industrial property. Our comprehensive plan, it was an old plan, Yeah, that was great 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But the current environs of the city, the current conditions of the city, that industrial site was no longer going to be an industrial site. And so the Planning Commission recommended a zoning change and based it on the fact that conditions have changed so that the comprehensive plan was no longer applicable to that tract. And so these first seven sort of say, all right, we're going to put this comprehensive plan, which is part of the function of the Planning Commission. You all are putting these together and making these recommendations. Then 9 says, we're going to make sure we guide the city as best we can to stay within that comprehensive plan. I don't see a function of the Planning Commission. I know that we've got on the agenda, and we've got some issues with some issues on, I guess it's Putman Street. Typically, there's not a power for the Planning Commission to address that, other than a mere recommendation to the town council. But really, it's again, that's a function of the town council to get the law enforcement arm of the town to resolve those issues. Now, if it's an issue more of we need to look at changing a commercial zone in that area, we could have somebody make a request to us to look at a zoning map change. Is this problem being caused because at the end of this dead end street, there is a commercial zone, and maybe now it should, the commercial zone is not appropriate, but, to actually deal with traffic flows that are of streets that are already there, that's typically not what a Planning Commission does.
Okay, and I will have some follow-up questions when you're done with your presentation, but I thank you for that answer.
Okay, well, and then sort of going down to this enforcement part, which is 10. You've got some issues. I see some concerns, even though that the West Virginia Code talks about seeking injunctions of the circuit court. The actual filing of litigation by the town, the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Ordinance Compliance Officer, they're all subdivision or sub political subdivisions of the town, and to actually file suit takes a function of the town council. They are the ones that have the authority to file suit. Now, you can make recommendations if you feel that there are violations. I will want to point out a fact that when the state code makes references to units of government, the Planning Commission, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Ordinance Compliance Officers do not have authority to file actions against the governing body. And we've had that issue. I think it was in the Board of Zoning Appeals appealing a decision of the governing body. And there's not that authority to do that. There is currently pending in our, one of the things that Jefferson County and Berkeley County and Morgan County, we all share the same judicial circuit. So the judges in our circuit, even though Judge Lawrenson is generally sitting in Berkeley County and Judge Hammer is typically sitting in Jefferson County, decisions of the circuit typically apply to the whole circuit. And I will tell you that there's currently pending litigation in Berkeley County dealing with what does that mean, a unit of allowing a city to enforce its regulations against a unit of government, in this case, the county. And Judge Lawrenson has initially ruled that the city had no authority on our stormwater with the county. Now we're waiting for a final decision, which I'm not really sure why we haven't gotten it, but we haven't gotten it. But I do want to caution the Planning Commission that they just, individually, they cannot go out and start litigation without the council approving that through the ordinance process.
Well, Mr. Sayer, that's pretty clearly stated. I don't know about the rest of the committee members here, commission members, but you've really addressed the whole range of authorities and powers. I was wondering if we could move on to the issue of agenda items.
Okay.
If you're ready to do that, I have a specific question.
Sure.
Thank you very much. If that's with the permission of the other commission members, I'd like to do so. Thank
So
you.
before we go, so
Sure.
we're moving off this, George? Is that what you're saying? Now we're moving into agenda items?
Yes, that was the other matter that Mr. Sayer was
Okay.
requested to come here and speak to.
Before
Wait.
we do that, before we leave, I wanted to, it appears to me, I don't know, this planning commission is focused on land use, bottom line. And this other stuff that we're seeing are objectives within the land use. But they're not our power.
Well, are you summarizing what Mr. Sayer said here?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with you, and I believe he keeps saying that we have an ability to recommend and not to execute actions, not to enforce actions and such.
And also a person, a citizen or a resident of Harpers Ferry can do that directly to the town council. You don't need to go through the planning
Indeed, they
commission.
may. Yes,
And we get those.
and indeed, yes. Yes.
Okay.
Roberta has her hand up. Roberta, I think, are you frozen? No.
No, I'm not. I'm waiting for the president to recognize me or say I can speak.
Oh.
Are you okay if I go forward, Tim?
Oh, I haven't been involved in this at all.
Yeah, go ahead with your question.
Again.
I mean,
Roberta
Mr.
Macri-
Sayers,
And I don't think we're leaving Mr. Sayer. We still have several questions, Christian. We're not leaving right now, so I want to make that clear. But my one question is, if a town resident brings up an issue to town council, but town council, knowing what the planning commission is responsible for, should refer the issue to the planning commission because it involves land use and involves something that maybe the planning commission has a better oversight for or understanding of. And then the planning commission would make recommendations back to the town council to do X. Is that correct?
I would generally agree with you that if somebody came to the town council and said, we want to do a subdivision, we want to do a site plan, we want to do, we would like to see a rezoning of some property, or we'd like to be able to do X within a zone, that item should come back to the planning commission and allow the planning commission to vet those items and then make the recommendations back to the town council. I do not believe, especially like with a map amendment, changing a zoning, I do not believe that the town council, without it coming to the planning commission, without the planning commission having its public hearing, would have the authority just to do it offhand. I think that would open the town council to the potential for review in the Circuit Court of Jefferson County. The appropriate way for those items are to say, we got the Planning Commission, that's what they're here for. You should make your application back to the Planning Commission. Does that answer your question? You're muted again.
Yes, I'm nodding my head in acceptance.
Oh.
Thank you.
Okay, all right.
Okay, Mr. Sayer, if I could proceed, I'd like to move on to Planning Commission process.
Okay.
And a particular item. The item being the rights or of a Planning Commission member or a member of the general public in this town to file an agenda request and have an expectation that that agenda request will be placed on the agenda. Of course, subject to the rules for filing time and filling the appropriate forms. But say, let's Roberta here, if she wants to file an agenda item, if she follows all those rules, does she have is there an expectation that she'll be allowed to see that on the agenda, or is that up in the wind?
Okay. One of the things that I think that the corporation of Harpers Ferry does a very fine job is allowing citizens to get items placed onto agendas. You know, with their form, that it gets submitted. You know, I know that, you know, from my experience, limited experience with the town council, I find that to be a nice function that the town does. You know, they allow people to do that. I think that when it comes to the town council, when they have that general open to the public, you know, for to the good of the order, whatever you want to come and say, that's one of the functions of town council. When it comes to our planning boards, planning commission, board of zoning appeals, historic landmarks, and those types, typically those agenda requests and getting on the agenda should be those items that are germane to those commissions. So if somebody wants to come to the planning commission and they want to complain about some business is too loud, you know, there's too much noise coming from this bar. Well, that's really not a function of the planning commission, and they should be directed to make that request to the town council. Now, if it is an item that is within the powers of the planning commission, if Ms. Mead Curry wanted to discuss or have discussed an item such as looking at wanting to make some changes to our residential zone, then I think that through that request that it would be appropriate to be addressed at a planning commission meeting, you know, as a discussion item. But just to have just a blanket statement of saying that any member of the commission or any member of the public could have anything addressed at a planning commission meeting or a board of zoning appeals or whatever, I would say no, that you wouldn't have that absolute you shouldn't have that absolute expectation. If it's something germane to your function, yes. If it's not germane to the function, then no.
So
I'd like to ask a question, Mr. Sayer. In setting the agenda for the planning commission, I've been under the impression that it's my decision whether to put something on the agenda or not. And as you say, if I receive, for example, an agenda request that the planning commission say make a proclamation declaring the inauguration of the People's Republic of Harper's Ferry, well, I would reject that. You have to be able to reject some. You have to have, it seems to me, the power to reject something that is clearly not germane to your powers. And so I think you're saying that that's correct, that I under those circumstances would not. Suppose, for example, though, that 3 or 4 people wanted to do that, wanted to join to say, okay, we want to issue a proclamation for the People's Republic of Harper's Ferry, or a majority of them wanted to put that on the agenda. Would I be obliged to do so?
Typically, you are the gatekeeper of the agenda. However, you know, there are limitations to that. And so if you've made a determination that an item is not germane, and then a majority of the members of the Planning Commission move to overturn your ruling of it being germane, it could be placed on not that agenda, because you're going to have a notice issue, but be placed on a future agenda. But that's one way of dealing with it. I mean, that's sort of the way I look at these as chair. You're kind of a gatekeeper function. You're setting these agendas. Now, you know, if it's someone that's making a request or filed an application with the town to get on the agenda to do a map amendment or something like that, then they, of course, you would say that was germane, and we would deal with that.
When in receiving an agenda request, is that something that I should, when I'm setting the agenda, is that something I should make public to all members of the Planning Commission? That is, if I make a determination that this is not within our scope and powers, and is that something I should make known to all the members?
Now that's a good question. I hadn't really thought about.
Well, the reason I asked that is because of what you said back to me about, well, you know, if the majority of them wanted to overrule me or a decision like that, they could do so, but they would have to know that.
Correct. So I think when you're dealing with, say, a request from a member of the Planning Commission, then, you know, the member of the Planning Commission that's made the request and that you have said is not germane could bring that up at the meeting. I guess the bigger question is if there was some person out in the public that made that request. But, you know, I would say that they would, you know, if a public person, you know, one of the members of the commission, you know, they could reach out to a member of the commission who could raise that topic.
Okay. That was helpful. Now, the other thing is when you put an item on the agenda and you put discussion and action, if the word action appears, is the Planning Commission obligated to do something?
Well, what I would typically, and I would say discussion and action as necessary, but no, you know, discussion and action does not necessarily say we've got the vote.
Okay, that was very helpful. That was very helpful. The other thing, what would happen, say, if this is hypothetical, of course, if say a subject was to come up, say some sort of issue with SB, it was proposed and seconded that the Planning Commission engage an attorney to challenge the constitutionality of SB 647. It was proposed and seconded. What would happen? I mean, does the president have the right to rule that as out of order, or or what if it was proposed and seconded and then a vote was taken? And the vote was in the majority to do that. And there were some members that felt that that wasn't even an appropriate motion to begin with.
The way that to deal with that, when the motion was made, you as chair could say, this motion is not germane to an item on the agenda or within the authority of the planning commission. Then if a majority, the body could say, well, and I'll just say, we'll say that George says that, no, I don't believe that that's true. I think it is germane. There would be a motion to determine if the motion was germane. There would be a vote. If the majority of the folks on the planning commission said that, yes, this is germane, they've overruled you. And then there would be a vote.
Okay.
But
Well, that was helpful.
yeah, I mean, that's the function of it. But I will tell you that on that specific example, the planning commission can't hire counsel to file suit.
No,
I know that. That's why I picked that. I picked that deliberately because
Okay, all right.
yeah.
You got
the
me
other thing-
excited there. You got me excited. So
The other thing I wanted to ask, is there a place on the agenda, a place where we could talk in the committee without having a place where committee members could raise concerns that they have that would not require so much action, but would be well, I'd like to bring this up at the next meeting or something like that. Is there a place is there a way to do that that's, that you don't get off into la la land?
you could add, I mean, I'm looking at the agenda we have for tonight's meeting. You could add a spot between new business and adjournment that says, discussion and other business.
Okay.
And if somebody at that time says, that would be an appropriate place for somebody to say, I would like to have on a future agenda to discuss X. It's not to discuss X at that meeting, but to say, I would like to see that at a future time.
Okay. Say that it was discussion and business
And other business.
and other business. Yeah. Okay. Well, that was very helpful.
That's just sort of a catch-all. And
Yeah.
then, that way you're not taking action, you're not doing something, but you're just saying, hey, in the
Yeah.
future, because we all know that, the open meetings law requires us to have on the agenda action items and notice out to the public.
Thank you. I have another a question that's with some sub questions, and that has to do with your presence here today. And I wanted to read. I included in what I sent to everybody the agenda request that I was sent, and I'd just like to read it. Dear Mr. Weiscarver, because of items recently forwarded to the Planning Commission from the Town Council concerning our operation and because of some confusion that has arisen in our meetings, we are requesting a discussion and actions, SIC, on our operating process with regard to agenda and scope at the May 18th Planning Commission meeting. Now, first sentence I'll say is I got this letter, didn't know anything about it on May 11th, and I'm unaware of the items that were recently forwarded to the Planning Commission from the Town Council. That's first. The second thing it says is this request is being made at the suggestion of former Planning Commission member Helen Becker and after consulting with current member Christian Pechiconis, who's our vice president. The next, it goes on to say, in order to bring clarity to our deliberations, we have invited Town Attorney Ken Sayer to attend. He has agreed to do so and will speak on, in his words, quote, the operation and authority of the Harpers Ferry Planning Commission pursuant to ordinance and state statute, close quote. he has approval and funding not to exceed $500 by our mayor. Attached, find the request. So I received this. I knew nothing about this. I received this on May 11th, which was after the date, the 5-day requirement date. Both agenda requests were after the 5-day period. On the one hand, I was pleased because I'd like to hear what you have to say about the Planning Commission. And on the other hand, I was concerned because it seemed to me that this was not just a request. It was a request with an action that was a fait accompli, namely the engagement of your services through the mayor. And that concerned me a little bit. Not your service, I'm very glad you're here, but just the idea that some members of the Planning Commission could on their own decide that, well, they don't like the way that you're running things, Tim, and that's fine. I appreciate that. I mean, I get that. But we're going to take it on ourselves. We like-minded people are going to take it on ourselves to talk to the mayor, get permission, and engage an attorney to come speak to us. And so I wonder if you might speak to my quandary. One of the things I wanted to say was so when I received this agenda request, which was late, I thought, well, how can I refuse this? I wouldn't have refused it in any case. The lateness doesn't really bother me, but I wouldn't have refused it to put it on there because it appeared to me that action had already been taken. And so that would have been pretty bad to say, well, no, we're not going to put this on the agenda after you had already been, the mayor had been involved and you had been involved, but I knew nothing about that.
Mr. Weiscarver, point of information.
No, I'm asking just a minute, please. I would like Mr. Sayer to just, I'm not to speak to whether that kind of thing is all right. It concerns me but another thing is that I'm told that the Planning Commission is obligated to pay, not the town council. So
George, I'm sorry, Tim, I don't mean to interrupt you, but Mr. Dill has his hand up.
Well, I'd like to get Mr. Sayer's opinion about this.
Okay. So, I was approached to see if I would be willing to come and talk to the commission. And I speak to the committee, in other cities that I do work for. I've been asked to come and talk to other commissions. It was my general understanding that this was sort of an overall request from the Planning Commission, just to sort of make sure that everyone sort of had a good feeling for what was going on. I looked at it as just sort of a general discussion of the powers and authorities to make sure that everybody was on the same page. I do presentations or discussions and provide information. I look at my job as sort of, I represent the whole town. I don't represent just the town council, though I do know that certain boards and authorities have been using special counsel for what they're doing. I don't, and I hope that you don't feel that my presence was to in some offense to you and your running of the planning commission.
Not at all.
My thought was that I was being asked to sort of give a general overview so that we, I know that historically, the town has had a lot of loggerheads, and we just want to make sure that things run smoothly.
Well, I'm very glad you're here, and not at all. What the part I think that troubles me is a little bit is that it seems that members of the planning commission can decide to act on behalf of the planning commission when it seems to me that they should not do that. That is none of us knew. I didn't know anything about it. If I had, I would say, oh yes, that's very, very nice.
Oh.
And I don't know if Christian Pechiconis, I'm told that he where this request says that he's named as the as being consulted with, and I'm given to understand that that's not true. And so can any member go and say, well, I'd like to have engage an attorney or engage a professional consultant on their own without or on the mayor's say so, or on their own? Is that appropriate? Or
well, I would say, one, it's not appropriate for a member just to go out and engage counsel. I think this was part of a request to the mayor and I guess maybe just the mayor or mayor and council to have the city's attorney come and meet with you all. I don't think that there's an authority to just go out and get somebody off the streets without, because again, you all have in your powers and authority to hire people, but it has to be approved by the governing body. Now, as far as where the funds come from, I don't know. I just assumed it all comes from the town of Harpers Ferry.
It does.
So
yeah, no, it does. But I think Christian told me that the planning commission is Billy or whatever you want to call it, which is fine. I'm very glad you're here, Mr. And I don't suggest you've done anything wrong. I'm just troubled by the way that it transpired, and I think it's a cause for concern if members, and this is not the first time such a thing has happened, where the members of the planning commission have acted as have taken actions as if they are speaking for the entire planning commission without including me, the president.
Well, the planning commission itself, there's not really, the planning commission acts as a group. You're the chair, and the planning commission is made up of its members, and it takes a majority of the members of the planning commission to make a determination and a decision. Now, as far as something like this, again, it was my thought that this was sort of, the whole planning commission was wanting this, not just, an individual.
Well, that's not, if you had, excuse me for interrupting, in this particular case, it is not true. And however, if we had met as a committee, I guarantee, and it had been brought up, I guarantee you, we would have said, oh yes, let's have Mr. Sayer come in and speak to us. So that you're right in one sense. It would have been the desire of the planning commission had it been proposed to them. I'm guessing that to ask you to speak to us, but that's not what happened. And it's not as if I'm trying to sit on a sort of procedure. I'm concerned because it feels to me that there's a sort of adversity. I think that it's fair to say that there are some members on the commission that are not happy with the way I'm running it. And I understand that. Sometimes I'm not happy with the way I'm running it. But
Tim, you've got quite a few people. You've got Ken Dill with his
Yeah.
hand up, then Roberta, and then George.
well, okay, but I'm not finished. But I will, and that's what I was speaking to Mr. Sayer, and that was my concern, Mr. Sayer, about this happening, not just once, but on several occasions, and that not being right. That shouldn't happen. And I hope that you would, as an attorney, would say that there should have been more, that should have been done differently.
Well, it's my recollection that this was discussed back in April. And so I just assumed that we had sort of had this understanding from the Planning Commission as a whole. I think one of the things, and I think everybody, it's not a secret that there are people that have very strong feelings about, the future of Harpers Ferry. And, one of the things that I sort of saw this as, this is what the Planning Commission has the authority to do or not do, and try to help smooth things out so that we're functioning in a better methodology. And I think that's, sort of a goal that we as leaders in the town, or the attorney for the town, I think that's one of the functions that would be best to see going forward is that there's more of a, working together and functioning more efficiently and just functioning better. But it's not necessarily a bad thing that people have, strong feelings, that are passionate about certain things. But at the end of the day, we all need to work together to make for a better town.
I completely agree. I guess somebody else wanted to say something. I'm finished what I had to say currently.
I think it was Mr. Dill, and then Roberta, and then George.
Okay, thank you. This is Ken Dill. I have two quick questions. I hope they're quick questions, so I'll ask them both at once. If an agenda request is submitted by noon the week prior to the Planning Commission meeting, we have our meetings on Tuesday evenings. If it's submitted by noon on Tuesday the prior week, assuming Monday's not a holiday, does that meet the deadline to get on the agenda? And the second question is it ties back to section 133.03 with respect to special meetings, where it says it's sufficient for 2 members of the Planning Commission to call a special meeting. So my question is, if it's sufficient for 2 members to call a meeting, is it also sufficient for 2 members to get an agenda item on the upcoming meeting, to avoid the president pushing to the next meeting? Thanks.
So, go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I was going to say, with respect to the 5-day requirement, I can tell you exactly when the agenda item for the Planning Commission was due. It was due at Monday at midnight to give you 5 business days, not counting the day of the meeting. Now, none of the agenda requests were in by that time, nor were the minutes. I don't care. I'm not a big deal on making those time limits. However, the town hall, I have to get the agenda in on time, or they will say, well, you can't have a regular meeting.
Tim, this is Pat, and if I can just help you out there, I did send every commission and committee the latest procedures and how the time frame of when agenda items are due to each commission and committee and when the agenda is due into the town hall.
Right.
So your meetings are, your regular meetings are the third Tuesday of the month. And so your agenda items are required five business days prior by noon. So that would be the 11th, in this case, the 11th by noon. That meets the requirement. That gives you 5
No, wait a
business
second.
days.
You put 12 PM. Now, here's what then you have to enlighten me here, because if I go back 5 business days, okay, not
Yep.
counting Monday, not counting Tuesday,
No,
that's
you would count Monday. You would count Monday.
Yeah, Monday, Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. That's 5 business days.
Right. So
It has to be, excuse me, let me finish. Maybe you want to redefine it, but the language says 12 PM, 5 business days before, which means it would have to be due by Monday to include the 5 business days. If you got it in on Tuesday, it wouldn't be 5 business days before, because that's a business day. And
No,
that's what you wrote. It's 12 PM, not 12 AM.
right. And 12 PM is noon.
12
12
PM
a.m.
is
is,
noon.
yeah. So that little confusion. And then that gives you 2
Nope.
days to work it out so that you get it into the town hall 3 business days prior to make
Okay.
the meetings act.
But Patty,
And
if you go,
I'll
if you
be happy
count
to take
5,
this
if you
offline
count
with you.
5 business days, if
Mhm.
you count five full business days, then it's got to be, the day that it's got to be due is Monday, not Tuesday.
Well, I tell you, I'll be happy to take this offline with you and we'll go over it. But
There's nothing to go over. A business day is a business day, right?
that is correct. But also,
Okay, if it's 5
also,
business
Tim,
days before,
Tim, also, your agenda for a regular meeting must be posted with 3 business days. However, it doesn't mean 9 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't mean 10 o'clock in the morning. As long as it is posted by close of business on that day counts. And that is
no,
from,
but I was asking not to posting, but for me getting into the town. For me to write the agenda and get it into the town offices,
Mhm.
my agenda has to be there 3 business days before. So for
That is
example, on Tuesday, if the meeting's Tuesday, then 3 business days would be Monday, Friday, Thursday, which would mean that in order to get it to you, I would have to have it in by Wednesday, not Thursday, by Wednesday, because
no,
that
you
would,
could, you could have,
that's crazy.
the 13th is 3 business days.
Yes, 3 business days.
Okay, Tim,
Thursday,
it's getting
Friday,
late and
and
we've got a
Monday.
lot to go on. I'll be happy to have a conversation with you offline and see if we can figure
Okay.
this out.
All right.
Okay,
I
Roberta
mean-
Mead Curry has her hand up.
Well, we didn't finish the question for the
Yes.
second question.
Yes, there was the second question from Mr. Dill.
Yeah.
The 03 deals with the regular meetings and how to call special meetings. And it does have a procedure if the president is unable or unwilling to call the special meeting. It does not apply to agenda items. And so I think it still goes back to what we discussed earlier. The chairman is sort of the gatekeeper. If if there is a group, a majority of the members of the planning commission that feel that his determination that an agenda item is not germane, then you would have the ability to overturn his decision as far as being germane or not.
So one quick follow-up question, if I could. So it sounds like at the start of a meeting, if there was an agenda item submitted that did not end up on the agenda, we could just have a vote and add it to that day's agenda.
No, it couldn't be added to that agenda. It would have to be at a future agenda because of the open meetings law.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm finished. Next.
Addie, you're gonna have to ride her here because I can't see anybody's hand and I don't know who to call on.
Okay, Roberta is next. And then George.
You ready for me to go ahead? Okay, Roberta Mead Curry, just a couple of follow-ups. And I think if you remember from our last meeting, I think a couple of the members tried to amend the agenda to try to get another topic on the agenda, and we could not do that. And then at the end of the meeting, we asked if we could have some items discussed for future agenda items or for the next meeting. But because we were told that the agenda did not have the format, then we couldn't discuss it. So this agenda item request that we're having tonight with Mr. Sayer here was that request. So you told us to submit an agenda item request per the new instructions. And that's another reason why we're here tonight, is to go over these new instructions, because we are all new planning commission members and we do want to do a good job. And we are very confused on how some of these meetings are being conducted and how we're not allowed to ask questions or to modify the agenda. So I think we've solved that problem tonight. And I think I'm very excited that we've added the line item for the future agendas under, if it's going to be item number 5, between new business and adjournment, discussions and other business. I think that will solve our problem where we thought we had to have an agenda item to bring up anything. So now that item on the agenda and future agendas as a standard item on the agenda, I think will help solve maybe an open forum for us to talk a little bit, to discuss new topics, and to get the next agenda formulated. So thank you very much tonight for making that decision and helping us all out. Thank you, Ken, and thank you, Tim.
Addie?
George is next.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to give a second or third or fourth thank you to you for this session. I think you have enabled all of us to give, we got a framework for moving more smoothly. I really appreciate that. Point of clarification, a couple points of clarification. I just want to clarify for the record that when I spoke to Mr. Sayer on behalf of Ms. Mead Curry and Mr. Dill, asking for his presence, I did not represent that as the full Planning Commission. Also, I did have a conversation with Mr. Petroconis that we were looking for a process portion to the next meeting, and that was my reference. Also, I've been acting on the placing agenda items forward on the understanding given to me by City Hall that at noon on Tuesday before the meeting was the deadline. And if that changes, I'd appreciate knowing that. The timestamp on the agenda item going to the president was 11:21 a.m. On that Tuesday, the 11th, and to the other board members at 11:33. And I'd be more than happy to kick it forward 24 hours in the future.
No,
if that's determined. Okay, thank you very much.
With regard to the time part of it, it doesn't matter to me. I mean, it's no big deal, but it is a big deal to when I have to get the agenda to the town. I have to get that in time, and I think it's going to come down to an understanding of what constitutes a day. But now that you're here, Patty, I think one thing that would be helpful would be if we knew, okay, the agenda is for this meeting is due at a specific time and a specific date. Not maybe the 5 business days is too open to confusion. Anyway, so.
Okay, well, we can put it on our calendar as a reminder to send you guys an email. I'll be happy to do that.
Okay, so you're in charge again there, Patty.
And I'm sorry, one last issue. The other items, new items sent to us that I referred to, that we referred to in the message, was from the Corporation of Harpers Ferry. There was 1, 2, 3, 4 pages sent. I believe that Nancy Case was instrumental in formalizing these procedures for committees and commissions. And I look forward to a discussion of any issues at another meeting, because this is getting on a bit long.
Yes, it is.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr.
But I'm
Sayre,
not sure what you're talking about there, George. You mean the
Mr. Sayre-
procedures for the planning commission and the town council meeting procedures, that kind of thing? Open Meetings Act?
It's procedure TH-001, titled Deliberative Body Meeting Agenda Posting Procedures.
Yeah, that's from the town, right? Okay,
Yes,
I got you.
There's
Okay.
about 5 pages of this. So,
All right. All right.
If there's an issue, we may have to clear it up with town council. Thank you.
Okay. If anybody doesn't have any questions, maybe because we're running pretty late here, we should get into the traffic issue next. Is that all right with everybody?
Sounds
And
great.
at this time, I would like to bring in Mr. Segazy. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. It will take a moment for him to pop in here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this is Ken. I think that you all are finished with me for the evening. You all should have my email address. I know that some of you all have my phone number. If you have any other questions, just feel free to reach out. And I wish you all a good night.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Ken.
And Mr. Segazy, I put you in twice because you were in twice, and I didn't know if you had a device that was working better than the other. So I put both of them in. Can you hear us? I do know there's a little bit of a lag time.
Okay, can you hear me and can you see me?
Yes, you're on. Okay, I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, good evening. My
Good
name
evening.
is Tim Segisi, and I'm here with my wife, Karen Segisi, and my neighbor, Miss Sharon Spriggs. We live on Putnam Street in a neighborhood zoned only for residential use. I'm here to address the health and safety issues in my neighborhood, specifically defecation on Putnam Street and excessive traffic on Putnam and Franklin Street. I've spoken with my neighbors and they strongly agree with my thoughts. First, at the May 10th council meeting, when Mayor Bishop brought up the issue of people defecating on our streets, we were appalled and disappointed that a city official, Tim Weiscarver, would laugh at our distressing situation. Why is it laughable? You're laughing again, sir. My neighbor across the street meticulously maintains his home for his family. The beautiful setting of his home is destroyed by people peeing in front of it, and you laugh. My next door neighbor, who has lived here all her life, can't enjoy her porch, and you laugh. The area where people regularly urinate is in plain view of where kids play. This is not a joke. This is a crime. Grown adults expose themselves to kids in plain daylight, and you laugh. Now, the little protection we had from signs that said residential traffic only and dead end have been taken down for illogical reasons. Those signs should be put back up, and another smart layer of protection in the form of barriers, as I have stated in my letter, should be put in place. The Journal reported that a council member stated the signs are not conducive to community. We have different races, backgrounds, and cultures living in this neighborhood, and we get along. Have you spoken to the people on Putnam, Franklin, and West Ridge Streets? You're very concerned about the working group for the comprehensive plan. There's no involvement with us here in our community. We have spoken to them and they appreciated the sign, and no resident here wants the traffic. What is not conducive to community is when people don't want to leave their homes and converse with their neighbors or ride their bikes in the streets because of fear of someone getting violent if they catch someone off guard defecating on the street. Or it's not conducive to community when people don't want to go out because they fear getting hit by a distracted driver wandering around in a residential neighborhood. The Journal also reported that a council member stated that the signs are unfriendly. This is flawed logic. The signs are helpful. Helpful means friendly. The sign simply said residential traffic only or dead end. Someone stated that enforcement is the solution. The ones defecating on our streets are not regulars that police can deter, but instead they are tourists from Virginia, Maryland, and other nearby areas. Enforcement is not the only solution. It is only part of the solution that must be layered with a smart traffic management plan in the form of barriers and signs. The only traffic we should have in our neighborhood are residents, their guests, and the National Park Service. There is nothing up here to see. It is all zoned for residential use, is it not? There's no river access. There's no views because of all the trees that line the side of the mountain. There's no legitimate storefront businesses, and there's no trails. This is a residential area. I also read in the journal that this commission wants to formalize a committee, like we just talked about earlier, to fix the sidewalks because you feel they aren't safe. I applaud that. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a great idea to protect our residents and pedestrians. We're telling you of a current and ongoing threat that deserves at least the same level because not only is it unsafe like the sidewalks, but it is unhealthy with human filth. The journal quotes a council member saying, quote, much of the signage was put up during COVID-19 time. We're beginning to emerge out of that time. Some of the signs we have are no longer needed, end quote. This is more flawed logic. Because we are emerging out of COVID, do we not expect more visitors and its associated increase in lost drivers? With the buzz of the Hilltop House increasing, we have experienced more and more traffic and defecation, and the Hilltop House construction is sure to draw more visitors and lost drivers. It's for these reasons and more that makes it imperative to not only replace the signs, but also erect barriers to help people find their way around the town easier. The signs and barriers we propose in my letters establish simple traffic rules to create an orderly neighborhood. Rules ensure a more enjoyable visitor experience. For example, I read the policies of Rock Haven Bed and Breakfast. Here's a sample. No parties or events without prior written permission from your hosts. Before bringing additional guests on the property, please obtain permission from your hosts. No more than 3 people are allowed in the suite at any time without prior permission from the host. Park only in designated area, et cetera, et cetera. There are many more rules. I find them reasonable, and I believe they lend themselves to an orderly and enjoyable visitor experience. We're asking for just one rule: respect the privacy of our residentially zoned neighborhood. We try to be good representatives of Harpers Ferry and ask lost drivers if they need directions. But even then, my neighbor gets yelled at. My wife is called names, and people get angry because the hilltop isn't here. This is unnecessary and can be easily prevented with signs and barriers. This is what we're asking for. We're asking for the signs to be put back up. We're asking for barriers to be in place on Franklin Street and Putnam Street, and for the following Planning Commission articles to be taken seriously. Article 133.01, paragraph A3 states, one of the purposes of the Planning Commission is to provide healthy surroundings for family life. As the lawyer, Mr. Sayer, said, it is your responsibility to make these recommendations to the town. Article 133.01, paragraph A4 states, one of the purposes of the Planning Commission is to plan so that congestion in the public streets may be lessened or avoided, and that the public health, safety, comfort, morals, convenience, and general public welfare may be promoted. Between my wife and I, we have served our country in uniform and in combat for a combined total of over 40 years. We continue to serve our community through church outreach events and as a government employee ensuring the safety of our nation. We sacrifice to ensure your safety and security. As citizens and veterans, we ask that you also exercise your civic duty to ensure our safety and security. Thank you for your time, and we request that we be kept on for the remainder of the talk on this topic.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to say something. Mr. I'm sorry, I lost your name. Mr. Segas, I am very sorry that I laughed when you said that. I should not have done that. It was completely, well, I won't explain why, but I shouldn't have done that, and I apologize to you.
Sir, I accept your apology.
Yeah, okay, so somebody wanted to say something. George, you want to?
Certainly. I want to thank Mr. Sagasi. I wanted to ask, are there any other members of the community on the phone there who wanted to speak at this time?
Yes, I do. I just want this, my name's Karen Sagisi, I'm Louis' wife. I just want it to be perfectly clear that we're not talking about a single incident up here on Putnam Street. I'm not talking about emergency stop and going behind a tree because they have to go to the bathroom or there's a small child who cannot hold it. I'm talking 6 incidents within 6 months. 2 of them I was able to get enough information to report them to Jefferson County non-emergency, so they were called in. These are grown men. These are men in their 30s, 40s, 50s. They stop in the middle of our asphalt street. They get out of their car. They make no attempt to hide behind anything. And they pee in broad daylight. These are like 2, 3 in the afternoon incidents. The last one was here in town, and I actually stood in the spot where this gentleman's car was parked, and I took a video. Every house on this street could see this guy. In fact, he got really upset when I approached him and said, "What are you doing?" He got in his car and he turned around where everyone could see him again, and he pulled into our neighbor's driveway and sat there. Okay, this is, we see this all the time up here. This is not, again, these are not incidents where it's somebody going behind a tree. There are 2 small children that live off of West Ridge. They can see directly where this is happening on Putnam, when they're outside in all kinds of weather playing. And it was right in the afternoon. So I need you to understand, these are not little incidents where people are going behind a tree. They're in broad daylight, which blows my mind. And as a retired nurse, I don't understand how this is even fathomable that somebody thinks this is okay to leave their bodily matter out on the street. And quite frankly, I think it almost qualifies for indecent exposure if these small children or Miss Spriggs, myself, or anybody else looks out their window and sees this. So I want it to be perfectly clear. These are not incidents where people are going at the extension of Franklin Street behind trees or making an effort to shield themselves. These are, as far as I'm concerned, indecent exposure.
Thank you very much, Karen.
Okay.
Are there any other neighbors on your line there?
Yes, I'm Sharon Spriggs. I've lived here 72 years, and we have never had anything like this going on in Harpers Ferry, ever, from the beginning of Harpers Ferry. It's ridiculous. A couple signs, residential. People live here. There are people who actually live in this town who are not here to make the buck, okay? There are people that live in this town. Not everybody's a money grabber. We need something done. A simple sign. That's all we ask for. And your permission to put it up. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Spriggs. Mr. Weiscarver, I'd like permission to read a letter from another resident in that block, if I could.
Sure, but why didn't you include it with what you sent for the agenda request?
I'm very sorry, I got it 36 hours ago. And I give that mea culpa. If you think it's inappropriate for me not to read it, then I won't do so.
No, go ahead, read it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your indulgence in this. Dear Planning Commission members, thank you for including the subject matter referenced in your May 21st special meeting. The traffic patterns in this area of Franklin, Putnam, and West Ridge Streets have created a nuisance and a public health and safety hazard for those citizens that desire to live there. There have been temporary solutions put into place, including signage and a police presence to provide some relief. However, the misguided visitors continue to flood this quiet residential neighborhood with traffic, illegal parking, and public and private property, dumping of trash, food, human waste, and open public urination and private and public property. There have been verbal attacks. I asked the Planning Commission to take this opportunity to work with committees and make recommendations to town council. None of the neighbors should be subject to this abuse. Our citizens deserve peace and good order and our support. This is the reason they chose to live here, and it's been expressed by some of your elected officials that the temporary signage is not welcoming or friendly to the visitors. The leadership of the Planning Commission found it amusing that when the subject was discussed in regular council meeting. Peace and good order must be preserved and our residents and their property protected. Yours, the mayor. This is from Mr. Bishop. He owns a parcel of property in that block. I'd like to say that I think I'm glad Mr. Sayer said we may talk about this, and I think the May should, given the degree of issues that our residents have suffered, I think it translates into a should. I wanted to draw attention to some of the great suggestions that Mr. Sagasi has made. I think his reasoning is clear, and he's supported in a very logical fashion all his arguments. I think the main one is this, that there is really no reason to welcome anybody but your guests and the residents in that neighborhood. I understand, I live in Washington Street, that all kinds of folks go up and down. I bought the house knowing that. But these are people who pay their taxes and property with the understanding that they're in a quiet residential neighborhood. I think that we should engage in some discussion and come up with recommendations, as Mr. Sayer said, to town council. So I'd like to open, I'm sorry, it's not my call, Mr. Weiscarver. Would you please open this to discussion and recommendations for that we could put to council?
Well, there are two issues, it seems to me, right? One is the is somebody buzzing? I'm
That's
hearing.
my phone. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about
The two issues are, one, the traffic, and two, the public misconduct. Does everybody agree to that?
I think one flows out of the other, tell you the truth.
Well, if we're going to do something, it seems to me that we have to address both of those things and not lump them together. The traffic, yeah.
Roberta has her hand up and Ken has his hand up.
Okay, Roberta, go ahead.
Thank you, President Weiscarver. This is Roberta Mead Curry. I'd like to thank all of the members of the community that brought this to our attention. And I am truly, truly sorry you're having to deal with this. As a resident myself, and you shouldn't have to have this kind of discomfort happening on your street or in your neighborhood. So I appreciate you bringing it to our attention. And I do also commend you for your service. Thank you for your service to our country, and hopefully we can work something out for you.
Thank you.
Okay, Ken.
Thanks, Tim. This is Ken Dill. First, I'd like to echo a piece of what Louis said about the laughter from a town official, and Tam, I really appreciate your apologies. Thanks for that. The second, I'd like to object to something else I heard at a discussion I heard at the, last town council meeting, where the town council decided to remove signs that were at the corner in question, at the top of Franklin, the intersection of Putnam. I understood the concerns of the town council as expressed during that conversation, that they didn't meet standards for size or color or location or height or whatever it was. I just understand that. But given that there was an ongoing concern from residents who live right near that corner, it really troubled me that the town council decided, oh, we need to take immediate action to remove these signs without reaching out to the residents for their opinion, without addressing similar issues with signs elsewhere in the town. They decided to focus on this and just perhaps make an ongoing problem worse. So that's my other point. And I guess the third point, just one more point, and then I have a bunch of recommendations. I'll pause after this last point if anybody has any comments or questions. So this other point, I guess, echoes a bit of what Louis said too, and Karen and Sharon as well, is that we don't want our residents to be in the position of having to confront people who are performing unlawful behaviors outside their property. If they need to confront the people themselves, they are perhaps putting themselves at risk. Maybe not in that incident, but you're talking to a stranger. You don't know the background, whether they're intoxicated or not. You're approaching them. Now they know where you live. And if something goes wrong in that conversation, you piss them off. Now you need to be a little more worried tomorrow than you were yesterday. It's your own house. Your other option is to call the police. That's fine. But with the kind of behaviors we've been seeing, somebody's there for a couple minutes and then leave, odds are police aren't going to show up in time to be able to do anything. So the residents are left with few options there. And so before I get into the specific recommendations, the point I want to make is that I think it's within the Planning Commission's purview to make recommendations that help keep residents safe and visitors safe as well. And that sort of dovetails on a point that George made earlier. I think it's within our purview to follow what's in section 133 of the ordinances, and if we can make decisions and do things that don't require much effort, don't require much money, if any. Apparently we have the signage already. We just decided to take it down. So I'll pause for discussion before I go into the suggestions.
Well, one thing that it seems to me is that we're in a position of making, we cannot legislate. We can make recommendations to the, as I understand it, we can make recommendations to the town council, but we can't affect any immediate action. Is that, at least I don't see how we can.
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. And that's what I'm looking for in this discussion, to come up with some.
Has this ever been, have these concerns ever been made to the town council themselves? Have they ever received any of these letters or?
Yes. Yeah, the CEC sent some months ago, I think in October, November.
And did they opine? What did they do?
I'll defer to the CEC stance that.
I send multiple letters to the town council in regards to traffic, in regards to public urination. When I sent things after October 23rd, we had a really interesting day here on Putnam Street. Everything short of a clown car with clowns getting out up here. It was just, it was off the hook. It was just ridiculous. Within a week, I had Mayor Bishop at my front door. He has been the only person that's come up here to address my concerns, besides Ken, who is our neighbor. He came up here, he listened to our concerns, he looked at the situation, he put signs up, and you know what those signs did? They cut that traffic in half. We still had our street peters, but I actually got some action out of it. What's sad is that since then, we've had more and more problems, and I've literally had to call the Jefferson County non-emergency number to start reporting these things because I feel like we're out of options up here. I'm not sure what else we were supposed to do. We have let the town council know about this. And it's just sad to me as a resident that the things that were actually working and starting to address the problems were just taken down yesterday morning. So that's, you know, I don't have any other power, but yes, sir, these have been addressed. Multiple letters from myself, my neighbor Sharon Spriggs, as well as my husband.
A word?
George.
Ken, thank you very much, Mr. Weiscarver. George Owens here. Ken, I would very much like to hear your recommendations. I think all of us have a 4 or 5 page memorandum sent by Mr. Sagasi with pictures of various options. He very, very well thought out. I really think this has been before the council, but it seems to have been unsuccessfully before the council. And I think
It seems to be, I didn't hear you, George.
It's been unsuccessfully or incompletely heard by the council. I believe that it would be a mark of honor and civic responsibility for the Planning Commission to add the weight of its recommendations, not action, the weight of its recommendations to specific ideas for remedying these real concerns of our citizens. And it's, I'm tempted to say something. It's very sensitive. And I'm going to say it in the most sensitive and uncontroversial way. We are not a terribly heterogeneous town in many ways, but this is a neighborhood that is predominantly a neighborhood of people of color. And while I do not at all accuse anyone in this town of insensitivity to those issues of race and ethnicity, I think that it is incumbent upon all of us to show our best behavior and our strongest concern so that we are inclusive in all our words, our actions, and our thoughts for all the members of this town, and make that very strongly known. And with that, I'd really like to hear Mr. Dill's suggestions.
Can I just interrupt for 1 second? Roberta has her hand up, and I don't know if you want to speak before Ken. If you had a question, Roberta.
No, I would like to hear Ken's, and then I would reserve to come back and.
Okay.
Tim, should I go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. So before I go through a list of specific suggestions, I want to see if we can just agree on some basic principles, just to see if we're all kind of all on the same page. Does anyone disagree that the town should avoid encouraging non-residential traffic into residential neighborhoods? Everybody disagree with that?
Say that again, please.
We should avoid encouraging non-residential traffic into residential neighborhoods.
I'd agree with that statement, Ken.
I'm not making a motion. I'm just asking if anybody disagrees with the principle.
All streets in Harpers Ferry, all streets are owned by Harpers Ferry, including the easements. They're owned by the town, with the exception of Washington Street and High Street, which is owned by the state. and parts of the National Park Service owning streets in the town, but they are open to the public.
Yeah, I'm not disagreeing that they're open, that they're public streets.
Are they private or are they public?
Public.
Okay, that's all I want. That's
Yeah.
my statement.
Yeah. So the second principle I want to ask about is, does anyone disagree that we should encourage non-residential traffic flow towards tourism areas that provide parking, shopping, dining, etc.? Anybody disagree with that?
We can't, again, public streets are public streets.
I'm just talking about encouraging, not stopping,
How do you encourage?
not prohibit.
I'd like to know, how do you encourage people?
I'll get you some specifics. I want to know if you disagree with that principle, in principle. That we should encourage traffic flow where the businesses are and where the parking is.
Well, you want to encourage traffic, discourage traffic into non-residential areas, period, right? Isn't that what,
That's actually my third point, but yes, that's absolutely.
well,
yeah,
that, why isn't that the,
Police, fire, ambulance?
Yes,
They-
There-
You exclude that, you want to block them?
I'm not even getting into points about blocking traffic. I'm just trying to just set a baseline for principles. Do we want to encourage traffic flow towards business and parking, dining, shopping, etc.? Do we want to?
yeah, I mean, I think we can safely say that, and I imagine that the town council feels the same way. That they would agree with you.
Ken,
Yeah,
that's,
Ken, we have sections of the town where you have to have a permit. I'm on the parking committee. We have sections of town, including the area where these neighbors are talking about, that have residential parking only. You have to have a permit to be back there, parked.
Yeah.
I think you're agreeing with
Or
Ken.
discouraging public parking back there unless they have a permit, or they have a permit on their cars, a residential permit, or they have a guest pass. That's what I meant to say, guest pass.
You and I are in complete agreement on that point.
That's right. And that's how it works in Harpers Ferry. Yes.
Okay.
And the signs are up for that. I've seen them.
hmm
All interior, everything off Washington Street is off the side roads are, including that area up in that area, is not open to the, it's open to drive-through, but it's not open to parking.
Right.
Mr. Sagazy has his hand up.
I don't know what, how long is this meeting going to go here if we got everybody in this meeting? I thought we were discussing amongst ourselves. Pat, they should be
Yeah.
put back
Well,
in the room.
I can't control the meeting, Christian. Patty's controlling it.
Pat, they need to be back in
Christian,
there.
with
We have to
Christian.
discuss it amongst ourselves.
I know, Christian, with due respect, if you remember when Mr. Sagazy spoke, when he first came in, he respectfully asked to stay through the whole discussion.
He can
So
listen. He can listen. But I don't want to turn this into like 8 people on this conversation. We'll never get done. This
Well,
is the planning commission. This is the planning. We have heard the residents. No? Lord George? This is
Yeah,
not
I
how it
mean-
works in town council. Town council, we listen. You've been to many town council meetings. You're given a few minutes to speak, 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes. That's it.
Well, Christian, I think your
Yeah.
goal was to move things along here. Mr. Dill was trying to establish some
I don't have any
baselines.
problem with Mr. Dill. I don't want
And,
others outside the commission speaking
and-
right now.
I'll tell you, I'm
I
not
can't
gonna-
control that. Patty's the one that's
Patty?
controlling that.
Tim, you
You
can
have to
control.
tell-
Do you want
I
me to?
cannot control it. Patty,
Excuse me, can we have one person speak, please? This is getting out of control. Can we have a point of order, please?
right, I don't control your meeting. I do control Zooming. So if you tell me that you would like to release Mr. Sagazy from the meeting, then I can do so.
He could be
But
put in the
you have to
waiting
tell
room.
me.
I would like to invite Mr. Sagasi and all the public to remain in this meeting so that they can hear and listen to this deliberation. That's what I would prefer. This is a very critical and sensitive issue, and it's an embarrassment on the town of Harper's Ferry.
But the issue was not whether they could remain, but whether they could speak, Ms. Curry.
Can we let the man speak this moment and
And what?
what he has
And
to
keep on
say?
speaking, and the other two other people? Come on, George, this is getting out of control. This is no longer a meeting. This is not a
I think-
hearing. This is a
I think
meeting.
it's very much a meeting, and considering what these poor people have gone through, it would be awfully
I have
sensitive.
heard, I understand. They have been very clear. I've read the letters. We've heard, George.
President Wisecover, may I ask for a point of order and for people who want to speak to follow the general practices of raising their hand and having you recognize them, please?
I can't see their hands raised. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Only Patty can, and she's the one that's saying, so-and-so has his hand raised. So-and-so has his hand raised. I can't see anybody's hand raised. Okay? Well, look, we want to support these residents and send something up to the town council in the way of a recommendation on two issues, both the traffic and the public disturbances. I don't think that we need to hear from any outside folks anymore. We're running at 2.5 hours now, and we still haven't finished the agenda. I think we're going to have to postpone that. We're just going to have to postpone those items until the next meeting, or have a special meeting. So what I think we should do is Ken was asking us some questions. I'm not sure where he was headed, but he had some sort of proposal that we send to the town council. Is that right, Ken?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
I have a few motions.
Now, is it something that can be, okay, well, why don't you, rather than ask us questions, why don't you I think it's pretty clear we'd like to try and we want to support their help these folks, and their situation is not good, and but we want to do so within reason. And the reason would be that the correct procedure would be to come up with something that we can send up to the town council.
Okay, I'll proceed if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first point, this is Kendall. One thing that was already approved by the town council at their last meeting on May 10th was to move the Harper's Ferry welcome sign, the Sister City sign, from its current location at the northeast corner of Washington and Franklin. And at that meeting, Christian Petroconis, who is on the town council, offered to remove and facilitate the repair and repositioning of that sign. I appreciate Christian volunteering to do that. I'm willing to assist with that. But I'd like to propose a time frame for the activity, because I don't think that was part of what the town council discussed. And my proposal, so I'll just turn into a motion to try to move this along. I move that Christian Petroconis ensures the Welcome to Harper's Ferry sign, otherwise known as the Sister City sign, at the corner of Washington Street and Franklin Street is removed from its current location no later than May 27th, 2021, prior to the start of Memorial Day weekend.
Second it.
Okay, discussion. I'm troubled by a motion that specifically singles out Christian to do something like this. I don't think that's right. I don't think we should be. I do not think we should be. I mean, he's agreeing to do something, but I don't think we should be compelling him to do something by a certain time. I don't think that's right.
The reason I phrased it like that was because it's already been discussed at town council. Christian volunteered. The best that the planning commission can do is make a recommendation to the town council, and this is an action that they've already approved.
Well, I'm still opposed to the, I have another thing that is that so I'm going along, I'm listening to your proposals, and all of a sudden we're fixing on the sign to Harper's Ferry. And that, I don't see the connection between that and the problem that, the problems that the Sagaces have brought to us.
Can I add something to it? Let's not vote yet, but.
No, we're discussing, we're not taking any vote.
Okay. Let me discuss what I've noticed. I noticed that when one sits at the light on Union Street, if you see, not light, the stop sign on Union Street and Washington, first thing you kind of see when you look forward is you see that sign, that sister city sign, and that looks like, if you're unfamiliar with Harper's Ferry, that looks like the way to go to Harper's Ferry. And we know as residents that that's not correct. So that's one of the reasons, that is the reason why I wanted to take that sign. I have to rebuild it. I have an appointment tomorrow morning with Larry, our maintenance man, to get these signs out. And that sign will be moved, and I have to move it in the park. I've got to work with the women's club because they work on, I don't step on any toes there. They take care of the park, that park. And so we're going to move it, but I have to redo the sign. I'll take the sign down quickly. It's just the sign itself. I have to get it to I'm not sure yet, a printer or a graphic designer, but we have to make a new sign because it's not legible, and we're going to move it over. Longer term, we are going to put a new sign up front. We discussed it in town council. Our meeting went 3 hours and 46 minutes. It was a very, very long meeting. This was near the end of the meeting. This issue we feel is not finished. We want to put up a sign in that area to designate people to go right to Lower Town, not downtown. We don't have downtown, by the way. Lower Town or a historic Harper's Ferry. And that's where most people want to go anyway, but we got to direct them. And we're going to work on that sign. So I'm just telling you, the town council is very aware of the issue of traffic going in a quieter end of town. I agree, it's a very quiet end of town, but we need to facilitate that by getting this sign put in. We're listening. We see the problem. We understand.
Hand raised.
Okay.
May I be recognized?
Right
Mr.
now, Tim's
Weisbach?
muted.
Yeah, we may have lost him for a moment.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. thank
Sorry,
you.
Christian, do you feel uncomfortable with this motion
It's just to remove the sign.
by a certain time?
I could do it tomorrow. We'll be done tomorrow. No, I don't have a problem.
Okay, then
It is an unusual motion. I'll
it
give you
is.
that.
I don't like that. I really don't like.
Yeah, but
okay, if you're okay with it, are you really okay?
yes, but I'm still not sure. I'm still not sure whether you have the power to do this. You can recommend the town council do. That's where
Yeah.
I think I have a problem.
That's what you're going to do, right, Ken? This is a recommendation. We're not legislating anything here, right?
At this point, it's a little moot because we can rephrase it and ask the town council to do that. By the time they have their next meeting, this time frame will have passed. We could make another recommendation for like Labor Day or July 4th, but I think this issue is going to be entirely resolved by then.
Well, then let's not have a motion. I mean, if it's going to be taking, what's the point in sending anything to the town council if Christian's going to do it? Let's just leave.
I promise.
Yeah,
I promise. I'll get
That's
it
enough.
down before
Good
that
enough for me.
date.
Okay,
And I'm going to reinstall it. I'm trying to, we're in the town. It's really hard. There's so many conflicting people and groups and ideas, and we have to try to balance it all. And so that's what we're going to do.
so how
Ken,
about why
let's
don't
hear
you
your next
withdraw the
proposal.
motion? Why don't we withdraw that motion and get on to the
Well,
recommendations that relate directly to the problem that the Segases feel?
We have a
How's that?
motion and a second.
Roberta and Ken have to both withdraw it.
I think it was George who seconded it.
No, I seconded it.
Oh, it was Roberta? Okay. Roberta, it's up to you.
I'd like to have a vote.
All right, let's read the motion.
I'll rephrase it a bit to have it be a request to the town council.
No, it's got it. Well, now you're amending it.
Okay,
Let's just.
in the interest of time,
right,
I'm just trying to get through this.
Right, okay, go ahead.
I'll read the original wording. I move to have the signage, oops, sorry, wrong one. Moves that Christian Pechagonis ensures the welcome to Harper's Ferry sign, the Sister City sign at the corner of Washington Street and Franklin Street is removed from its current location no later than May 27, 2021, prior to the start of Memorial Day weekend.
Okay, Roberta, you second it?
I still second, yes.
All right. All right, so we'll take a vote, roll call. Roberta,
Yes.
George,
Yes,
it seems to me that we've lost some members here, Peter, and if we don't have, do we have a quorum?
We still have a quorum.
2, 3, 4, okay. Christian,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
and I vote aye. So
Jim and
Jim and it looks to me like Jim and Peter are gone.
Oh.
They've left.
I could make a note to the record, Jim Jenkins has not been at the meeting since 8:15 PM. And I was not aware, I didn't catch the time that Peter Dessauer was as secretary. I'm just making that note. Thank you.
Okay,
wish they would say something before they.
yeah. All right, so
But should I continue, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, a brief description of the next issue and then a motion. This one's about the one-way sign. This is also under the category of not encouraging traffic where we don't want it to go. The one-way sign at the exit from the town hall parking area is not angled well. It currently faces the corner of Franklin and Washington, suggesting to vehicles heading north on Franklin, that's up from Washington, or considering turning off Washington onto Franklin, that they should continue north on Franklin. So my motion is I move to have the signage, or I move to recommend that the town council have the signage at the exit from the town hall parking area modified such that the existing one-way sign faces inward towards the parking area. So it's more clear, so more clearly indicates to the vehicles exiting the parking area that they should turn right rather than left when exiting the parking area.
is there a second?
I second that. I think that's a very common sense
Okay,
correction.
discussion?
Well, I'm doing signs tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. I'll look at it.
Well, we're recommending to the town council that they do.
Yeah, it's
this.
just a recommendation.
Right.
Yeah, I'll look, yeah. I'll look
Okay,
at it. Yeah, I mean, I will let the town council make that decision. Yep.
right. That's what we're doing, Chris. This is a
Yep.
recommendation that we're
You got
sending
me.
to the town council.
Okay.
Okay, all right. Then let's vote. Okay, all in favor? Roberta,
Aye.
George,
I,
Christian,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
and I say aye. All right, that's good. We'll do that.
The next point, I'm just going to make the point. I don't have a motion related to it, but it's just sort of a note to Christian about the rebuilt sign or the signage that is going to, say, if you want define Harper's Ferry, go that way.
Yeah.
There was discussion in the town council meeting about joining with Bolivar to put Bolivar's name on that same sign. I think that's a fine idea. I just want to express a concern that that signage might encourage people to just turn up right up Franklin if it's unclear. I'm not sure how to make it more clear, but just want to make that point.
Okay. I tell you, I'm really surprised. I've looked at a lot of towns. I've been in town council. I go wherever I go. I watch things that are done in towns, and I have to admit that we don't have enough signage that designates Harper's Ferry. Bolivar does a very good job, but we don't seem to, except for town hall. You see it, the town count. But that one is a critical sign. Also coming from Bolivar towards Harper's Ferry. If we angle it right, we should be able to help it on for Union as well as coming from West Washington east.
Right, I agree.
This issue, one, takes money. Two, it's going to take some time and study because it's going to be important. And so I'm telling you, it's probably, we're in the end of this current town council. Next month is our final with the current members. July will be the new town council. And I can make sure that gets carried on to, if we don't do it at this time, I will make sure that because it looks like it's going to take a little time to develop a study or something. It's not like we can just slap up the sign. Now, maybe you could do something temporary in the meantime, but permanent sign is going to take a little bit of study. And I suspect it's going to be with the new council.
Can I speak? This is Roberta.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, Ken and Christian, I think that's all good. I think maybe can we make a motion or may I suggest that we make a motion to have a study prepared or done regarding this sign? And if there's, I'd be happy to look at it. I can do some drawings. I can look at some things, but to show some drawings and show how this sign's going to be reoriented, what it's going to say, and can we do that first before we move forward on any other decisions on that? Is that maybe what you're asking, Ken?
I wasn't formally asking for a study. I didn't want to present an obstacle to the town council putting something up there, because I think once the current sign is moved out of location, we've taken care of removing a problem. There's the question of having an effective sign that doesn't reproduce the problem. If you have a motion to make.
Yeah, but the effective sign has to be effective. And so looking at examples or samples of what that looks like needs to be presented. And that's what I'm asking is there a way to word this that we have a study or we have someone prepare options for review?
Roberta, I'd like to speak. I think Christian has just told us that he has some field work that he wants to do in answer to this question. I think we ought to let Christian do that field work and then get back to both the council and the planning commission. Okay?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Tim, Christian has his hand up.
Yeah, Roberta, I think if we try to do a motion, we would have to get a committee set up. We'd have to get it approved by the council. Then we'd have to get the nominees put in. It would take a while. So I think George is kind of right. I'll take it on myself at this time and keep you apprised. But I'm going to need help, obviously. But I've got
happy to help you.
Yeah, good. I love that.
And I'm a neighbor of yours. I'm a neighbor. You can knock on the door. Okay.
Okay. So let's just.
Thanks, Christian.
I say let's not do it formally at the moment, because the council has already discussed it. We just ran out of time and it wasn't on the agenda. So we could not, we couldn't go any further.
In the interest of time, Ken. you got
Okay,
another proposal?
so we're still not, we still haven't finished what we want to do for the residents there with respect to the noise and the disturbance and that kind of thing. And the
Right.
traffic, right?
Right. So let me jump down to.
Okay, how many, do you have an estimate of how many more motions you're gonna make?
One about signage and one about barriers, and that's it.
And that's for the traffic, right?
Yes.
And then what, and then do you have a plan about the disturbances, the public disturbances, the defecation, the urination, that kind of thing?
As discussed in the town council meeting, I think responding to those incidents as they happen is an enforcement issue. The safest choice for residents might be to call police, try to get license plate numbers or something. But I think what we need to do as a planning commission is to do whatever we can to reduce the possibility of incidents happening, reduce the chance that
By the traffic, by means of the suggestions you're
tourists are
making
going
with
to end up
respect
in
to
that.
traffic.
Yeah, the tourists are going to end up at the top of Franklin.
All right.
Could we
Do you
make a-
happen to know George, do you happen to know, I'd like you to answer, did the residents call the police? Are the police able to help in any way?
I believe Karen said she called police on at least 2 occasions.
And do they can't get there in time and that kind of thing?
Yeah, Louis is nodding yes.
I believe Karen spoke to that earlier in the meeting and said that by the time the police arrived, the perps were long gone.
Is it a certain group of people who have decided that they're going to do this to disturb the neighbor?
I don't think there's any.
Is it random or something?
I haven't heard of any repeat offenders. From what I've heard, it seems to be adult males. Sometimes it's not a person alone. It could be, a man and a woman together. It's not families. It's all out of towners, tourists.
Tim,
Wow.
Christian has his
I
hand
was
up.
going to suggest, instead of trying to go through everything, why don't we just do it in one thing? That there's the 3 issues or wherever they are on that area of town on Putnam, and just present it to the town council, recommend they look at that. I mean, to go through all this, we'll be here all night. I just say, can we wrap it into one motion?
I'd like to hear if we can just get to Ken's motions. Ken, can you make your motions and then?
I'll make them at 2 motions.
Yes, thank you.
Because I think that there's one about signs and one about barriers, and I'm not sure how the planning commission is going to feel the same way about both. So regarding signs, move to add signs at the northeast corner.
Recommend.
Move to recommend adding signs at the northeast corner of the cross streets across West Ridge Street. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. I think everybody does. So 1 block up from Washington, as Franklin goes up, that's 1 cross street. There are 2 more cross streets that come off of Washington up to West Ridge. So I'm recommending that on the northeast corner, which is the corner on your right if you're driving up as a driver, straight across, straight ahead of you on the right side, to add on each of those corners a no river access sign, no scenic overlook, and residential traffic only. And in addition, 1 block further up at the top of Franklin at Putnam, add a no turnaround sign and a dead end sign.
Okay, I'm sorry, do you have that on your screen? Can you share a screen with your motion, please?
I had to switch computers because Zoom was bumping me off a few times, and now I don't have that document on the.
Would you just repeat that for us?
Yeah,
please?
repeat it just repeat exactly how you want it to be read.
Move to recommend placement of signs at the northeast corner of cross streets across West Ridge Street, particularly at the corner of Franklin. Those signs would be a no river access sign, no scenic overlook, and residential traffic only.
I second that motion.
In addition,
Oh, sorry.
one
Now
block.
you're stuck. Now you're stuck. You can't do that. You're done. You can amend it.
Fine.
Don't
Let's
jump
be
on
done with
me,
that one.
George. None of you jump too fast on that second. You can't then modify it.
Mea culpa, mea maxima culpa.
Okay, so where are we? We have to amend it, right? Is there a
Unless you
motion?
want
We
to,
don't.
yeah, he already.
Just do it separately.
Okay,
Faster that way.
so we have a motion and a second.
I'd like to add some.
Discussion?
Yes, I'd like to add, I think, I've read Mr. Sagasi's proposal and I understand what Ken is doing. So I'd like to add to the record that these recommendations are in compliance with the comprehensive plan, section 5, goal C.
Well, you
Objective
can't-
number
we can't-
2. I can say this because this is part of the discussion.
You can say it, but it's not part of the motion, Roberta, right?
No, that's not, we've seconded the motion. You've asked for discussion
Yeah, that's what we're doing. Okay,
and I'm giving you my discussion.
okay. But then you're
Okay.
saying that it's for the record or something. I don't know.
I'm giving you for the record that these motions or these suggestions by the public and what Ken is recommending is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. I'm giving you
Okay,
specific information so that we all understand we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
okay.
May I continue?
Yeah,
Okay. I feel that the motion Ken is recommending is in compliance with the comprehensive plan, section 5, goal, C, objective number 2, and objective number 3. It is also in compliance with goal, D, objective number 1, and objective number 6. It is also in compliance with the planning commissions and town ordinances, article number 133, section 133.01, paragraph 1, paragraph 3, and paragraph 4. Thank you.
any further discussion? Okay, let's take a vote. George,
Aye.
Roberta,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Christian?
Abstain.
I vote aye. Okay, so the next one.
Next motion is, I move to recommend that the town council add signs on the northeast corner of the intersection of Franklin and Putnam. That would be at the very top of Franklin. The signs to add there would be a no turnaround sign and dead end sign.
Second.
Discussion?
I believe there's a dead end sign there already. They didn't remove them all.
Okay, it's an official one that can stay and
Yes.
is not going to get removed. Okay.
Official sign. Yeah, we use them all over town.
Well, that
Then,
wouldn't contradict the motion, so I think that we could go forward with the motion as stated.
The motion was to add one, so I could say maintain at least one. I can amend it.
All right, is there a second to the amendment?
Can you repeat the amendment? Can you repeat? Because I'm the secretary and trying to get this right.
Right,
Your
you repeat
initial,
the amendment.
your initial motion and then the amendment, please.
The initial motion was to move to recommend the town council I said add signs at the northeast corner of Franklin and Putnam. And those signs would include a no turnaround sign and a dead end sign. The amendment is to not necessarily add a dead end sign, but to maintain at least one dead end sign at that location.
Okay, is there a second to the amendment?
I'll second that.
Okay, voting on the amendment then. Roberta,
Yes, again.
George,
I,
Christian,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
I vote aye. Okay, so now we have to vote on that amendment, right?
Just voted on them.
I think we did both together.
Well, you gotta vote them
I
separate.
think you just voted on the amendment. Now you have to vote on the original,
The primary.
the primary.
So we'd have to vote there no, right?
It's just as amended.
Oh, so now we're going to vote on the motion as amended.
So that vote was for the original?
No, I'm so confused.
No, I'm sorry.
that vote was for the amendment. Now we're doing the original as
It's
amended.
amended. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
so the original as amended. Do we need a second?
I second that.
Okay, so the original as amended. Roberta,
Do you want to have any discussion on that?
no. Let's just
Okay.
vote it. I
Okay.
mean, should we discuss this?
I just liked, again, my points that I made before with the comprehensive plan and the town ordinances, this motion would be in compliance with those articles.
All right. Okay, so we're going to vote. Roberta,
Aye.
George,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Christian,
Aye.
and I vote aye. Okay, now what about that? That addresses the parking, is that correct?
No,
mean-
there are already parking signs in place.
No, I
I
meant
think
the parking problem we're completed with.
No, he has
Uh,
one last
one
one.
Oh, big one. Okay,
one
I'm
additional
sorry. Okay,
regarding
go ahead.
barriers. I move to recommend to the town council to add one or more movable barriers in the northbound lane of Franklin Street at one or more of the following locations. The first one is at the crosswalk at the beginning of Franklin at the corner of Washington. The second one is just north of the exit from the town hall parking area. And the third one is just north of the intersection of West Ridge.
There a second
I second that.
discussion?
Yes, I would like to ask, this will be a recommendation to town council. And the town council is going to more than likely discuss with the fire department and police so that we do make sure that they can get the trucks by and et cetera. Is that correct?
Right. I had other discussion we could have around this about, what type of barrier, how heavy, how movable, is it seasonal, whatever. I'm not going to discuss that now for the interest of time. I'm sure the town council will go through it. And the point you just made was one of those considerations to talk to the emergency services.
And
Okay.
I'd like to state that Mr. Sagasi has given us some excellent visual examples of what some of these in use can look like. And I hope that he goes to the town council with this information.
And again, I would like to add to the record that my same points for the comprehensive plan and the town ordinances, these suggestions and recommendations are in compliance.
Any further discussion?
Yes, I see a problem in looking at our ordinances. We're installing I believe it's permanent, traffic control barriers. That's in Article 302, Section 05, which will block authorized emergency vehicles would be denied access, fire, police, ambulance vehicles. I see it as it's illegal.
They're looking to keep it to one side, is that correct? They're looking at
Still
maybe
blocking the
recommending
road.
that it goes to one side, that the vehicles, and again, that's why I asked the question. We got to vet this through the fire and the police department, please. That's got to be done. We're not saying go do it. We're saying it has to be vetted. So I appreciate that, Christian. We will do that. So as long as the vehicle can go around it and it meets the fire and police standards for their clearances, then maybe we can move forward, but we can't
Okay.
give you a definitive yes until we have that
you're-
done.
Okay, and you're also denying access to the United States Parcel Service, UPS, FedEx, contractors.
No,
You're blocking them. Well, you're blocking them. How
well,
does this movable barrier work? I mean, there's a lot to this, I believe. How does it open?
yes, to be determined. It could be.
I mean, is somebody going to be
as simple-
standing there like a toll booth and opening and closing? Okay.
Christian, I'd like to refer you to to what Mr. Wisecarver sent us from Mr. Segasi. They show pictures of urban settings in which these are in place. There's a variety of options. And I think that kind of discussion that you're talking about is wholly called for. And once again, it's called for at the executive level and of the town council.
Okay, it'll be discussed at the town council. Sure.
Thank you.
I'm just bringing up these issues that I believe will be brought up.
Certainly.
Well,
Certainly.
We must know our own ordinances.
I mean, we can't be sending something up there that's illegal.
Mr. Wisecarver, I'd be happy to work with Ken and any other members of the planning commission to prepare a report and these recommendations in writing so we have all the ordinances listed that have to be looked at, and we give a really nice report to the town council for them to consider. I'd be happy to work on that committee or team. Thank you.
And if this was ever approved, this is going to have to go through hearings through the town council, because you're dealing with an entire neighborhood, not just that small section of the neighborhood. Other people drive through there that live there. They may not like that. I'm just telling you.
And we'll put that in the report.
Okay.
So now I'm getting confused here. Right now, we've got a motion and a second. Do we have? Is that right?
That's what we have, Tim.
And we're in the midst of discussing this particular motion.
We are.
And Christian is questioning whether it's even legal.
Well,
But we're making a recommendation, right?
That's
You
all.
phrased it.
It was phrased as recommendation, yes.
So do you think that addresses the legality question? Or is it, I mean, if we put this,
I think that those are issues that are beyond our capacity here, and they will certainly be worked out.
right, but I meant, we don't want to send something up that is manifestly illegal.
Well, we don't have any way of determining manifest illegality at this point.
It's a recommendation. It's not a mandate.
Okay. Christian, do you agree?
Well, I'm telling you, you better have your ducks in a row or you're going to look bad.
I'll talk
You're
to the
making a
ducks.
recommendation. You're making a recommendation from Planning Commission, and they listen to you. So make sure you keep your credibility up. That's all I'm saying. Just like we should be listening to our tree committee.
Well, I'm concerned now that, is there a way that we can word it so that we don't opine about whether it's legal or not?
Mr.
Or-
Weiscarver, I don't believe the opining of illegality is in Mr. Dill's motion.
It
And I'd like to call for a vote.
Well, not yet. We're discussing it.
Certainly.
Okay. So I'm stuck with, if we know that it's illegal, we don't know that it's illegal.
None of us are attorneys to make that determination.
Okay. So can we at least phrase it so that
You
how
want
can we,
to, you want
how
to,
can we put it so that, I mean,
again, if it's a recommendation, it's gonna be vetted by town council and don't they send it to their attorney, the ordinance committee, or whatever
Mhm.
else that has to be vetted through town
Right.
council?
then we have to make that judgment.
Okay, and so it's
Okay.
up to them. Is that right?
Okay.
Christian, you're on town council. Is that not correct?
We're going to, you better believe it.
Okay,
We're going to check it out.
okay, good.
But you better have a pretty good, what this thing looks like. And from what I've seen in the pictures of the other thing, don't look movable to me. Planters or whatever I saw look pretty permanent to me.
Okay.
That was some of the options.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just,
Yeah. I understand your
if
unease
somebody's
is
driving in the
understood.
middle of the night and they don't see it and they get in an accident, who's liable? The town. So we better be real careful about this. This is serious.
It's not done yet. Okay, we're gonna vet this. Okay, we're gonna
Okay.
do our research and we're gonna do it properly. I understand what you're getting
I
at.
just don't
Just
think
because
you're
we vote on
ready.
something tonight,
I don't think you have it ready yet. That's
out
why
of order.
my hand's up.
Mr. Weiscarver, will you please recognize someone to give the floor to, please?
Christian speaking.
Yeah, okay. We've got to be careful. I would suggest tabling this motion till you have more information. I don't think you have enough. I mean, unless you want it shot down pretty quick. I think the legal thing is an issue, and also what this barrier is going to look like. I'm voting on something I don't know. I mean, I don't know. It's awful vague. I mean, if you're comfortable with it, I guess we'll vote for it.
No,
But-
I would like to add something to that. Can I be recognized, please?
Yeah, I'll take
Yes.
my hand down.
Yes, Roberta Me Curry, thank you. Okay, so I understand, and maybe Ken, if you, maybe we do table this and we bring back a draft, a better draft of the ordinance with a report on where we think it should be, maybe have some diagrams, maybe have something that is a little bit more concrete. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's fine with me. We can table it. I can modify the motion, so it's really just a motion for planning committee action to do some study, put some more documents and clearer plans and suggestions together, and references to ordinance and all that.
And I'd be happy to help you with that.
I'd like to raise my hand. Mr.
Okay.
Gill, I really believe that we need to vote on this motion that you have here that is seconded. The things that are being called for with regard to research are precisely what our town attorney has said. It is outside our purview until directed by the town council. Let the town council direct what they feel. What we're doing here is putting forward the concerns of individuals in this neighborhood into some recommendations to be determined outside our purview until the council states it's so. I'd like at this point in time to make a firm statement that we do support barriers at these locations, and that the town council will take that and either run with it, modify it, or throw it out. So I seconded this motion, and I would again ask Mr. Weiscarver to call for a vote.
Christian,
I have my
Christian
hand
has
up.
his hand up. Christian
I have
has
my
his
hand
hand
up.
up.
Yeah, Christian.
First of all, has anyone seen a barrier like this on a public street before? I have
Certainly,
not.
Yes,
I
I
have-
have. I
Where?
have. In Tampa, Clearwater, we do it all the time. So it happens.
You
I-
just block the street.
I've seen it.
Again, Christian, it's vetted, okay? It's vetted with the proper channels, it's vetted with the proper departments, and then it moves forward. Just because we're doing something tonight doesn't mean Ken and I and George and anyone else on this planning commission is gonna go put a block and a barricade up on Franklin Street tomorrow. Okay, it's going to be vetted through the proper channels and the proper research, and we will have our ducks in a row. Thank you.
I was hoping the planning commission would have that.
Well, that's not in our purview, Christian. At this point, that's not in our purview. And in answer to your question, I've seen it on
What-
Harpers Ferry Road heading to Sharpsburg. I've seen it in Sharpsburg. I've seen it on Sandy Hook Road. I've seen it outside
I've never seen it in
Penn
public.
Bend. So-
Ken has his hand up.
Ken,
I just want to make a point that I intentionally left it vague, movable barrier. I know I didn't reference Louis' letter and all the pictures therein. Yeah, it could be 1,000-pound planter. It could be 1,000-pound planter that's only there during certain seasons. It could be a sawhorse, the yellow or white stripe thing that is only there on holiday weekends. Whatever, just recommending it, for the town council to consider that.
okay, well, let's end the discussion and take a vote. All in favor of the motion, George,
Aye.
Roberta,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Christian,
Abstain.
I vote aye. Okay, now that, I'm hearing an echo.
You are.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm hearing some feedback. All right, now, the plan then is that these motions that we voted on are going to be put together in some sort of document and presented to the town council. Is that right, Roberta?
And again, they're Ken's motion, so I will help Ken prepare something. And then, Ken, do you want to have a draft presented back to planning commission for review? How do you want to do this?
That's fine.
Well, if we,
Whatever the appropriate process is.
well, it would be good if we could get it up to the town council for the next meeting, right?
It would be.
When is
Does that mean that we would have to meet? We would probably have to meet, right?
I don't know that we need to meet. We've got this meeting recorded. We can, I read the motions as I have them in a document. We can easily make sure that.
But
my
we have to
transcription
get it,
matches the recording.
but we have to get it on the agenda of the town council for the next meeting, right?
Well, I
That's
think
what-
Mr. Weiss.
That's what we want to do.
You could make it part of your planning commission report at the next meeting.
No,
right?
I don't have a report to make next meeting, George. I don't make them every meeting.
Oh, you don't? Oh, I
No.
thought you do.
No, I don't.
Well,
But we do want to get something up there.
no.
Is that
Roberta
doable, Roberta and Ken?
Christian, when's your next meeting?
I can answer that for you. The next meeting is June 14th, and the agenda requests are due by noon on Monday, June 7th.
Monday, June 7th. When's the meeting, Patty?
Monday, June 14th.
Monday, June 14th.
Mhm.
And the agenda request is due when?
Monday, June 7th by noon.
June 7th by noon.
If I could ask a question to Christian. Would it be appropriate to submit a single agenda item for the town council that had multiple attachments with these multiple recommendations from the planning commission?
I think
For
you have
discussion-
to-
for discussion and
they're all-
action.
They're all, each one is an individual discussion and action, so it'd need a one on each one. Yeah, I don't think you could do it in one.
Okay,
They're not gonna pass one thing. They're gonna go through it all individually.
okay, I'll get those agenda items in.
Yeah, to Patty.
Okay. All right. And what about the public disturbance?
In terms of what the planning commission can do to
Right, the urination.
deal
and-
with.
Yeah,
I'm not in strong disagreement with what seemed like the town council's discussion at their last meeting, which is when there's somebody there, a stranger doing some unlawful behavior, it's an enforcement issue. It's unfortunate that it got to that point. And we need to be concerned about resident safety, and that's what the police are for. I don't know if
well,
there's anything else the planning commission can do.
I didn't take that away from the last council meeting. In other words, they're saying, call the police. Is that what the town council said?
I
If you
think they were
lawful
sort of
behavior-
echoing what you had said in this meeting, Tim, that it's basically two issues. One is in traffic control, the other is enforcement.
Right.
We're doing, the planning
I
commission is
see.
going to do what we can in terms of
Yeah, on the
traffic
traffic
control.
control, the other is the enforcement.
Yeah.
But shouldn't we give a recommendation that, shouldn't we say something to the town council that we're concerned about this?
My view is that at this point, they're very aware. And given that we're going to put more agenda items in front of them and requesting essentially for them to undo something they did at the last meeting and to do more stuff, I think they'll get the point.
Everybody okay with that?
That's fine with me.
Yes.
Okay. So here's where we are. We've got two more items, and it's now 10:15, and I think we should, they're tree committee issues where we really want to green light the changes in the ordinances to the tree committee and the tree plan. That's what we want to do, I think. I don't think it's possible to do it tonight without any discussion, right?
I would agree with you, Mr. Wise-Carver.
Okay, all right. So,
Well, did you all read it?
Actually,
Yes.
Christian, I did.
Big problems
And-
with it.
And
There what?
there is discussion, I believe. Frankly, I think it would serve the tree committee better if we were all a little bit more awake than right now.
okay, so we're not gonna, there's things to discuss, so I think we should table it to the next meeting, the next regular meeting. And I don't know what the proper procedure is for that, so that we don't do anything illegal. I
make a
guess,
motion- I would like to make a motion that we table the remaining items on our agenda until our next regular meeting.
is there a second?
Wait a second. I would also suggest making it the number one item. This is the second time now
Yeah.
that we are passing on the tree committee, which is our committee. So make sure you make an effort to make this the number one thing next time.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
also, as an alternative, you could schedule a special meeting just to discuss
No, I don't
that.
want a special meeting.
Okay, just trying to help.
We're done with
Just trying to
meeting.
help.
May I
I
have
was
a
going to
second?
suggest that, as we do a special meeting with just that topic and get it resolved.
I'm not gonna be there.
I'd like is there a second on my motion, Mr. Weiscarver?
No, you haven't, I don't know, wait a minute. We're not moving anything here as far as I know. Okay. All right, now I want to get my bearings. Okay, was there a motion to put this, table this to the next meeting?
That was my motion, sir.
And was there a second?
I'll second
No,
it.
there was, okay, there was no second, and that, now we have to have discussion.
Mr. Dill just offered to second it.
I said, Mr. Dill seconded, discussion. Okay, then let's vote. George,
Aye.
Roberta,
Aye.
Ken,
Aye.
Christian,
Aye.
I vote aye. All right, now before we adjourn, is there anything that anybody knows right now that they want to put on the agenda for the next meeting? Hearing none, I vote that, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, the meeting's adjourned. Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, everyone.